Athletes are always challenging themselves to get better. You've seen this in all sports. Esports is no exception. You can never predict the outcome. The only thing you can control is how ready you are. Over and over, players adapt, trying to improve, fighting hard for every percent gained. Give everything you've got to the challenge and show your finest. Bring your best out. Strive for perfection. It's our goal too.
This battle's a lonely one.
Hello PUBG Esports fans. One of the big differences with PGI.S is that instead of receiving prize money based on your final rank is determined by how much prize money you've won. We're awarding prize money every week, and the team who has collected the most at the end will be crowned our PGI.S champion. Here's how it breaks down. The first 8 teams to win a weekly survival match each week take home an automatic cash prize, earning more the sooner they win. From there, the winners of the weekly finals tournament get an even bigger cash prize. The first place prize being $25,000 on week 1, and growing to an astounding $500,000 by week 6, giving teams lots of opportunity to catch up and claim the title. Winning isn't the only way teams are earning cash though. 30% of the total profit made from PGI.S item sales goes back to participating teams. This money will be distributed based on the percentage of money each team won in the tournament, with bigger rewards for the higher performing teams. So, not only do you get cool skins and voting coupons to earn even more cool skins, but you're also helping your favorite teams bring home more well-deserved prize money. So be sure to tune in, pick your winners, and cheer on your favorite teams across 8 weeks of intense PUBG action.
Hello everyone and welcome back to day number 2 of the final weekly reseeding tournament. I am Poorsaurus, joined by Clover and Cameron Davis. We had some good games yesterday, which left us off with Detonation Gaming White at the top of our leaderboard, and a lot of other some questionable placements. Clover, I know you were looking a little bit at some teams like FaZe and STK.
Yeah, I mean, some of the big hitters teams that we've seen have really great performances, but for whatever reason keep ending up down in the bottom 16. And it's not to say that there isn't good things about the team, but needing to get those chicken dinners and finding ways to get up points are really important. STK did not have a strong start yesterday. We started to see a little bit of glimmer of hope, but all is not lost. We've seen them have a 54-point day in the bottom 16 before. So there's a big possibility that they could have a day like that again today and take them up to the top of the leaderboard.
This is where the big time pressure is going to start falling on the shoulders of every single player out there. Nobody wants to finish low on the leaderboard. Everyone wants to get as many opportunities as they can to get that win next week and find themselves in the final grand finals for that huge prize pool that we are looking at. Cameron, what are you looking at after this first day has been done?
So I don't want to read too much into this point because there have only been 4 maps, just like we're about to play today, 2 on Miramar, 2 on Erangel. But I'm looking at the overall sort of map separation. Where are teams getting most of their points from? And so many of these teams, basically all of them outside of Detonation Gaming, have a huge one map favoritism disparity. And for some teams like STK, it's because they only played well on 1 map and 3 really bad maps. But even Zenith and Liquid, who are in 2nd and 3rd place behind Detonation Gaming, even they are a little concerningly favored towards one map on the other. I expect that to even out a little bit by the end of today, just because we are doubling the map pool. We're doubling the entire sample size of what we played yesterday, but that is something I think a lot of teams do need to look at, especially ones in the middle of the pack or lower who are trying to climb up the leaderboards.
A lot of big names on the right side of that leaderboard, Clover in particular, one that, has kind of become a weekly shock, which at this point, if it's a shock every week, should it even be a shock anymore? But Damwon Kia now in 16th place. That is not where we expected to see these guys.
No, that is not a good showing for them at all. But unfortunately, we talk about consistency and the consistency that we need to see from teams. Being consistently in a position where Damwon Kia is not what we want. We want to see growth. We want to see improvement. We want to see chicken dinners. And it's just not where it's at. And I think that for a long time, the conversation was, they're just hiding their strategies. They're going to wait. They're going to pop off on week 6. Damwon, if you cannot get out of 16th place, there is no week 6. They've got to outperform today.
Well, that is just the sad part of the leaderboard, obviously, as we check in on the boys, and hopefully you can see a little hope in the eyes, maybe some casual prayers going on there a little bit.
Definitely
We'll see
looks
what
like
happens.
some praying.
Yeah, it's we'll see what they can pull out there. I'm definitely surprised to see them with zero money in the prize pool, but some teams on this leaderboard, Cameron, that do have plenty of money in the prize pool, and we're already surprised to see them down here. We're talking Zenith, FaZe Clan, 4AM sitting in 12th place right now with 18 points. You hate to see that, but do you think we'll see any of these teams that have had previous success in past weeks try to make a run for the roses, so to speak, here on the last day, try to make a run for that first place spot?
I mean, Zenith are already in a good position. It was a little shocking, though, as I mentioned yesterday, if you look at the trend, generally, if you win the weekly final, you're not going to be in the next weekly final. But aside from that, Zenith, they still played so well that it was sort of a shock to see them, as well as FaZe, who played really well last bottom 16, played really well throughout the entire weekly survival for the past couple of weeks. They just weren't able to get that final win, and that's all that you need. Doesn't matter how many kills you get in second place. Obviously, you need that win in the weekly survival. So I do expect Zenith to continue to perform well. I expect FaZe to perform even better than they performed yesterday because, being honest, yesterday was a little bit of a slump for them. When you look at the overall points for the team, outside of Fuzzface, they're in 4th place. But it's really only Fuzzface that's really getting a lot of the kills. I think he has 13 kills by himself yesterday, and the rest of his team has maybe like 3 or 4 each. And Uba at least has the damage that is somewhat matching Fuzzface's output. But if FaZe can get all of their members keyed into getting into that, even not even a full S+ level position, but even just like an A-, a B+, I think they should put themselves even higher up, because you're right, they're in 4th. That's a solid position right now. But come on, it's FaZe. They want to get as many opportunities during the weekly survival as they can.
Absolutely. Check in on the gang from LG Divine. They had a decent day yesterday, Clover, with 22 points. Buriram also finding some success yesterday, now sitting in 5th place overall with 25, sharing that position with TSM. Are you looking at any of these SEA teams in particular, maybe to make a big run here late?
You know, Buriram has definitely been a team that we've been cheering for all along. I think that this is a team that has so much potential, and when given the room to breathe, can be very deadly. I mean, we talk about the fact that they're in 5th place. One of the reasons is because they did find themselves with a chicken dinner yesterday, but that chicken dinner wasn't enough to carry them up all the way, because they still need to get a little bit more on kills. Some of the problems that a lot of these teams are having right now is that they'll have a handful of games where they're at or near the top, and then they have games where they're going out in 15th and 14th and 12th place, and that's not really allotting them any killing or scoring chances, let alone anything on placement points. And that's kind of the imbalance that's hurting them. Where on the flip side, Team Liquid's kind of been consistently at or around the top 5 yesterday, and I think that that is kind of the level of performance that we need to start seeing from these teams, with so much on the line this weekend. Next week is the final, the most important week of weeks. You want to get yourself in that best position.
Team Liquid definitely put together a string of consistent performances yesterday, but I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, Cameron, but Detonation Gaming White, 41 points on the day. They looked phenomenal yesterday. Do you expect to see them deliver a similar performance today?
I expect them to deliver very well, but as I mentioned yesterday, their turtling style, very defensive. We're going to hold down this compound and defend it from anyone who is going to come this direction. Can be strong in the right positions, in the right games, but it does give a little more power to where the circle goes, in contrast to, for example, an edge sweep team like Buriram, as Clover is just bringing up. So unfortunately for them, it doesn't matter how good they're playing, just their style is more favored. The catch 9, as I think, is becoming the big thing on Twitter, even before that, getting the shifts in their favor and actually having a compound that is a defensible one in terms of being in the zone.
Catch 9, probably the most yeah, it's definitely the catchphrase lately, it seems, is a lot of teams saying that if you don't catch that 9th circle shift, Clover, it is going to be bad news bears for you, and you're basically behind the 8 ball, especially when it comes to the games where you have to win. But There's still teams that have been able to find wins. Unfortunately, Damwon Kia, not one of those. As we were doing a little research over the last night, we found out that throughout all of 2020 PCS, the longest that Damwon Kia went between wins was 17 games. Clover, it has been 72 games since Damwon Kia's last win. That is not something that you expect to see from that team.
No, and you know what? Today is the day to do it. Right now, with this lobby, we were really expecting it to be top-heavy, having so many top fraggers, top fragging teams, aggressive teams in this lobby. We thought maybe one or two teams might run away with it. Detonation Gaming getting those 2 chicken dinners kind of kept things a little bit in check, but for the most part, 14th through first place are one single game apart. One game could take anybody in that row and put them up near the top. Damwon Kia just a few points behind that. One chicken dinner might put them in the mid-range. One chicken dinner and a really good performance out of 2 of the 4 matches could get them in a really great scoring chance for this coming week. So I don't want to discount them yet. I think that when teams are absolutely at the bottom, circling the drain, is when you need to be the most scared of them. And with Damwon, nothing else has worked. I think today that's going to make them even deadlier.
Do you agree, Cameron? Do you think this is the time when Damwon should be their scariest? I mean, they've got 8 points. They're tied for 16th with GEX. Definitely not the company that we thought Damwon would be keeping.
No. The time they should have been scariest was week 1, after they came out of the original ranking, the original ranking weekend, because they just looked so strong there, and it was just a dive down from that point. They showed promise last weekend, and it's all gone, so I can't put any faith behind them anymore. I'm sorry.
They're done. They are done.
Yep.
In Cameron's books. The goose is cooked. Well, you can see all our boys are into the lobby 30 seconds before we get to the game. Clover, any final thoughts before we head into game number 1?
I just, circling back one more time, underscore 23 kills in survival this week. I want to believe that Under still has that
Double
energy
down,
underneath him.
I've been burned too much.
Someone, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. I believe in you.
Let's, Clover.
This is my motivational speech, someone.
I believe in the power of Damwon. I believe in the power of Kia. Cameron is a hater. He's a hater, but it's okay because we've got the biggest Damwon Kia fan that's going to be part of our first game casting crew. Let's throw it over to Paper Thin and Matchroom for game number 1.
Hello, PUBG fans, and here we are, plane already in the air, making its way over Miramar, coming in from the north, gonna end up around the south near Puerto. A lot of conversation hinging around Damwon Kia just due to the surprising nature of the beast right now. Let's say it though, 72 games is a lot to not win, but mathematically, that means that they're due for one, right? That's how
gambler's
math
fallacy rears
Yeah.
its ugly head again. Matt, it is shocking to me. It is beyond shocking to me with how well that Damwon Kia has played, not just in 2020, but also in 2019. A top 5 finish at PGC, consistently top 5 in almost every event, not quite every event, but almost every event they played in 2020. It's very surprising. This team looked to be a real contender. They were one of my top 3 teams coming into this event, but a lot of the blame has to fall on Sungjang. He hasn't been putting the team in good positions. Yesterday in the last game, we'll see if JN gets caught with these mini shots, but yesterday in the last game, Matt, Damwon Kia made one of their kind of classic moves that I like to see them make, where they drove into center circle on phase 3 or phase 4 towards the north of the prison, but they lost 3 members in that transition, and then it was just down to Under, who had that fantastic moment where he shot a molly out of the air. But it's like, even when they make the right moves, like, they're in the moment, they're making bad decisions, they're having vehicle mishaps. It's like they can do nothing right. Every little thing is going wrong.
Well, this is going to be dramatic for a couple of these teams. Circle is going to be centered kind of near Cabrera. That means that really we've only got about 4 or 5 teams in there. Gokuri. Did I see a Winnie in his hands there for a second? I'm pretty certain I did. I don't know. They're trying to win me over slowly and steadily. I have this problem. Anytime I see a Vector, a VSS, or a Winchester player, my heart just goes out to them. It's like, these are my people whenever you do that. I mean, We haven't really seen too much of these type of weapons outside of the TPP event that we saw, but every once in a while they've come in, and we've seen somebody coming in decide bringing a little swagger towards the end game.
Yeah, I mean, look, like if you want to talk about Detonation Gaming White, for example, they're a team that, yeah, they play passive. They play to kind of lock down a compound as long as they can, hold out to the end. And if I were the coach of Detonation Gaming White, I'd say, okay, great, you guys are good, really good at defense. Let's start expanding your game. Let's start working on third partying. Let's start working on fighting out in the open. Let's start working on taking splits and things that are necessary of modern PUBG. So as good as they are, they're mechanically quite gifted as well. I think you guys saw that yesterday with some of the moments where they were defending against teams like Zenith and they held their own. But they need to work on putting themselves in good positions, outside of just being in the side of a compound or locking down, a spot on the map. So I think they're talented. I just think they need to expand their game.
Well, we might see some expanding kill points coming into play as June has been spotted out. Squeaky's going to pick that one up real nice and clean. No real problems involved in that. And give Ince an extra point. You can see how close this is right now on the leaderboard as Ince now moves into 9th place. Because if you look through there, we've got Ince, Furia, AAA all tied. Then 1 point behind that, K7, 4 AM tied. And then we've got STK 1 point behind there. So just killing 2 members of an opposing team can shift you from 14th all the way to 9th. And that is how close we're looking at towards the center of this right now. This is extremely pivotal. And yes, I know we've talked about this. This is week 5, but we're going to go ahead and rehash it and remind everybody this specifically sets up your potentials for success in the week to come. Whenever we look at the survival series, it's all about whoever takes the chicken dinner. Whenever you win that round, you move on to the finals, but then a new team comes in to replace you. That new team is going to be entirely decided by the placements that we are looking at right now. So while we're starting to see a little bit of separation, most notably up towards those top 3 spots, it's still very compacted in the middle sections of this. Really, we've got, like, I would say between Dom 1 to FaZe in a comfortable spot where they're starting to feel pretty good. And then down at the bottom, we've got Gex and Kia that are tied up. And then it's just everybody in the middle just going after it.
Well, this is, I think, Matt, like the most stressful day of PUBG beyond actually like the next 3 days of the qualifiers. Like this is such an incredibly stressful days for these teams because every point matters, every moment matters. You got to do everything you can. And if you're at the bottom, look, you could put up a 50-point day in 4 rounds. That's very doable. And you can find yourself very near the top of that leaderboard. I don't think you're going to topple Detonation Gaming White. You never know. Maybe they'll have a bad day, but I think it's going to be very difficult. But this is really kind of a big-time gut check moment for a lot of these teams. 4 AM is down there. SGK is down there. Some really good teams hanging out in the bottom half of this lobby that really need to, find some gumption, find some of that veteran presence, the things that have brought them to big international tournaments before, why we talk about them, and see if they can come through here today.
I mean, I've got a lot of eyes drawn into Team Liquid, Zenith, FaZe. You know that these are 3 teams that are pretty angry right now, and I think that they're starting to take that anger out on everybody else in the lobby. Teams that didn't necessarily have the best of success, and actually why they're in the bottom 16 right now, but we did have a lot of big moments coming out from them, and Under getting an aggressive player coming up next to him, and that's going to be Edie, but looks like Under already has a read on this. A little bit of a peek. Under spots that one out pretty cleanly, and ooh, that's going to be Edie getting away just a little bit, down to 12 life, and here comes the throwable exchange between the two of them.
Yeah, Under going with the stuns. Doesn't look like he managed to find any frags during his looting, so that's actually going to potentially send him packing. Maybe he's just readjusting his vehicle to find a better defensive angle there for a second. He hasn't taken any damage from the throwables, so at least he's burned a few of those out of Edie. He wasn't able to connect that AK spray. Definitely not his preferred assault rifle. I'll tell you that right now. Under is not an AK player by any stretch of the imagination. So maybe that's kind of causing him a little bit of problems with that. The reinforcements arrive for Buriam as well. Wow, that is a lot of flips that he just managed to do, and I think he got the vehicle stuck. Oh boy, that is okay. He's good. He's good. No problems. It's all good. Do a barrel roll. And now Under gonna be able to get away with his life, it looks like.
Yeah, interesting little way to make the rotation there, but he's going to be perfectly fine. Edie up in this high ground, and Buriram has been a consistent factor in conversation for the past week, actually 2 to 3 weeks, really. If you look at it, we've just seen them slowly and steadily find more and more chances for success. Now sitting in that 5th place position, but it's been most notably off of aggression in the survival series. We've been seeing a lot of the teams in the survival series just kind of playing more for late game. Buriram being one of the key X factors and saying, no, we're playing every stage of this. We're fighting every single team we come across. And while it hasn't won them the chicken dinner, it has won them a ton of fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Buriram has always been, for me, a team to watch out for coming into this event because of their nutty fragging ability. And, the thing that has hurt them is their inability to close out games to get the wins. That's been something that has caused them a problem in PCS APAC as well. They put up big kill numbers. They're not always putting up good placement numbers. So for them, when they have good weeks, they really shine. They're fun as hell to watch. They are crazy. They'll roll up on anything. They'll take a fight anytime, anywhere that they feel like they have the opportunity. They play the edge. They sweep the edge better than maybe any team in the world. Just really, really fun to watch. But yeah, there is some kind of mid-game decision-making at times that leaves you scratching your head.
Scratching my head, but also cheering at the same time. You gotta love the X Factor teams like this that just come in and they're like, all right, we're just gonna play what we know best. We are back in the super settings for the bottom 16, though, as you can tell by the leaderboard point system on the left side of the screen. Shoot to kill. Shoot to kill, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. There's been a lot of conversation around them, and this is a team that is, I would say, almost desperate to find some successes. We know the fact that this is a very high-end fragging team, but just haven't been able to find the victories. We saw them get very close several times, but just had the chicken dinner snatched away from them. And we've talked about this a lot, is that this is a very long event, multiple systems that you have to work through. The chicken dinner system, then we have the super system. There's a lot of modifications bouncing back and forth. It's very hard to study your opponents because who's coming in and what position changes every single week. And it just creates this very mentally taxing system. And so whenever we're looking at these bottom 16 rounds, things that I'm looking for most notably are going to be the teams with the mental resilience. You're seeing a lot of that come into play. Like, sure, social media has been pretty toxic in this. And yes, chat, sometimes you guys have been a little mean to your teams. I've seen it. But teams like Team Liquid, you can see Zenith, and even Detonation White Gaming, as well as where we're looking at FaZe. These guys have managed to bounce back and constantly keep high-end expectations for themselves while not just applying way too much pressure. I feel like some of these other teams might be having a little bit of struggle with that right now.
Absolutely. It is hard, man. It is really, really hard. And, you're put out of your comfort zone big time. Speaking of, Damwon Kia is kind of getting circled by Buriram, which I think would scare anybody, no doubt about it. But now Damwon Kia with the circle shift is starting to push their way forward. Buriram having pretty similar ideas. So this is a huge gut check moment for the Korean team as they are going to be squaring up against Buriram. Gut check moments for both these teams, to be honest. They're both very, very talented in these close quarters combats. You also have 4AM watching this fight from above, and it's going to kick off. Got me out trying to land a few mini 14 shots. Doesn't really connect with those. This is going to be rather difficult with Under holding the front line for Damwon Kia.
Under's in a pivotal position. He needs to get a knock, and no, it's going to be Konaxi that gets the headshot onto him to drop him. That was a key point that you knew that Damwon Kia needed to play around, but instead loses one. So with this, it's going to make it that much harder to get any form of breach into the defensive line that Buriram has set up. And this just comes back into the X-Factor plays that we talk about with Buriram. These guys never afraid to take a fight, and whenever it starts moving into the close range, are so deadly.
Yeah, and you can see a fantastic grenade from Nawadra. Gets the knock onto Kale. Things are falling apart quickly in game number 1 for Damwon Kia. Sungjong and Indigo trying to get in front of Kale, trying to protect him from getting flushed, seeing if they could get forward into these shacks, provide the covering fire necessary to buy time. It's only first knock for Kale, so still quite a bit of time. And now you can see 4AM up on this hill. They are not afraid to third party. They are not afraid to get involved. If they see that kill feed start to get a little wild, do not be surprised if they roll down this hill.
4M inadvertently protecting Kia right now. Shoot to kill also hears that there's a party going on. Now the question comes into play is how they're going to influence this. Are they going to be content to just chill up here, which might give 4M a little bit of vision on positioning. Buriram looks like they're going to go ahead and reposition a little bit as well, realizing the fact that they've got a lot of attention coming towards them. Shoot to kill already getting line of sight back into shoot to kill's positioning, but it looks like they're not going to be staying in that position. That's no real big surprise based off that. Well, I don't know. They might just be repositioning around it. I think that there's enough of a dip that it might protect them from 4 a.m. while also giving them a little bit of oversight into the position. And no, shoot to kill instead going to go ahead and cut this one through, and it looks like shoot to kill's got goals. They say, okay, this is it. It's time to start making some risks. We're in the bottom 2, so instead, let's go ahead and try to make our own destiny. They roll up the hillside, unafraid of the positioning, and look at that rotation right underneath 4 a.m., and 4 a.m. could not find the firing lines for them.
Yeah, this is a pretty good rotation. They're going to be able to keep their vehicles safe unless 4 a.m. Reaches out and really wants to try to put pressure on top of them. So they're kind of putting the ball into 4 a.m.'s court, saying, if you guys want to come out and fight, you can, but you're going to expose yourself to all the teams that are on the hillsides if you do. So for now, you're going to have to let us settle in underneath you unless you want to take a huge risk. We'll see where the next circle goes, kind of dictate the tempo. There's been some fighting, a little bit of a scuffling, I should say, between Team Liquid and Zenith on the south end of the circle. As we look for the phase 3, it is going to center up to the east of La Cobreria here. So this one, very likely to end to the south of where GEX is. That's Unplayable Mountain there. So it's unless it hard shifts up to the north, like big time, this one definitely going to end up somewhere, south of that mountain.
A lot of the teams opting to play around the mountain, and that means that it's going to be a very clustered positioning. Zenith going to go ahead and catch a little bit of airtime in the rotation, and they're rolling right into shoot to kill's positioning. Punich jumps out, and it is just a ton of shoot to kill members right in his face. Pentalil taking a little bit of damage, but that's at least going to discourage Zenith from making the approach here. Instead, going to shift away from this. Burram also trying to make a rotation. One of their members down in the outskirts for this. So now problems starting to mount for these teams as so many are playing towards the south, and really just Gex and Triumphant Song Gaming to the north. So longer rotations could be absolutely pivotal for success. If you can make it into a decent position, a little bit more centered, it is actually quite open.
Absolutely. Buriram trying to cut forward. Kia trying to make him pay. Noadra's already been knocked. The rest of Buriram able to get forward. Team Liquid is going to find Divine. We've seen they are not afraid to take fights to teams this weekend. They've been mostly doing it well, but this time it's going to be Ibiza get taken down by a good grenade from Leviz. Now it is Luke 12 from afar. Going to be coming in there trying to steal some kills in this fight. Ibiza does manage to get himself into the shack, so going to be looking for the res potentially coming up. The rest of LG Divine reeling in this fight. They've already lost 2.
FaZe now making their approach into the zone, as you can see. Getting a little bit of information on what's happening around them. The hillsides are starting to be quite problematic for these teams towards the west. You can see AAA and TSM, neither one inside the safe zone just quite yet. 4 a.m. opting to reposition a little bit out here and heading very far towards the north. They're going to get themselves a position over next to Triumphant Song Gaming. So now they're running a 2-2 split on a very wide positioning. I mean, they had to pass through multiple teams to get to this point. Forever is down, should be able to get rezzed. I think that there's enough cover for that point. This is a interesting, I almost want to say safety play. Meanwhile, K7 on the other side of this one, we got Detonation Gaming White running into Divine.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. I wanted to see Detonation White get aggressive, but they got to back each other up. If they're going to push up those stairs, they got to have 2 to do it. So micro mistakes kind of hurt Detonation Gaming White when they don't need to. Leviz is going to be taken out by Crazy from afar. I like the idea. I like the push here from Detonation Gaming White. They isolate the fact that there's 2 in there for LG Divine. They could take a good numbers fight, but if they're going to come up the stairs like that, again, it should be 2 at least trying to push up there. There's no reason they need to lose that 1, and Crazy probably would have done the work for them anyway. Wookie Bookie and TSM has to fight Furia over on the western side as we look at, there's AAA involved in this potentially as well as we look towards the next circle. Oh, wow. Oh. We're hard shifting over to the east and still a lot of that mountain in this.
This is just so rough for so many of these teams. Now the west is going to get absolutely explosive. Fury has been trying to hold out TSM. Blind grenades going over the hillside, but finally Wookie Bookie getting close enough to maybe inflict some retaliation damage. Not going to connect anything with that grenade off the get-go, but a lot of TSM been having to play along the blue. having to be careful with this, the amount of damage that they've already taken with it, and Ints now also getting involved into it and making it even more problematic. There's so many, I would say, third and fourth parties that are coming into play right along this wall, and it's not even inside the safe zone, so these teams know the fact that they have to win these fights quickly and then reposition. TSM already down to 2, having to push right into Furia's face, and this is looking bad for them.
Well, I mean, Furia was playing this so well for the most part, keeping themselves out of grenade damage areas. They weren't inside the buildings. They were hiding behind them. Team Liquid, in the meantime, has pushed up into Detonation Gaming White as there is a knock onto Ibiza from Gokuri. Oh my god, this fire is getting everybody. What a molly from Gokuri here. This is opening up so much space for them. Jeems trying to get through and trying to see if he can res his teammates. Team at TSM does go down on the backside of all of this. And there you go. Detonation Gaming White gonna hold tight.
Definitely starting to feel more in their comfort zone, and they do it right as the blue is coming in. Gokuri is like, no, wait for me. Instead, Detonation Gaming White's gonna have to run through. Shoots a kill's got vision. That's already one down. They're trying to navigate, but there are just too many bullets coming down towards them. That's gonna be another follow-up, and the one that wanted to hop in the vehicle and couldn't quite find it, now the last one up for the team. Rolling through the hillside, already down to half-life. Options very minimal, and there you go. Detonation Gaming White, you won the fight, but you end up losing the war. High ground positioning so strong from this point. It's going to be 4 a.m. from a little bit higher up the hillside that spots out Purdy Curdy, and both of these teams, yet again, going to have to move in just one moment.
Yeah, with the circle cutting off the southern side of the hills, now the space is open up for 4 a.m. to get on top of SDK. It's very smart timing here from the Chinese squad as they are starting to make it rain. It's going to be one taken down there. Purdy Curdy going to get finished as we look over towards Ents. They continue their assault on the western side. Attack all around is going to go down, but it's just Diggory left for Ents. 6 kills in the bag, though, but you have Zenith up on the mountainside as they are playing this very, very smart. They're going to have great high ground. They're going to be able to work top to bottom. I got to give another team credit off to the side of this. FaZe has made fantastic rotations along the eastern edge to give them a really nice position in this circle. Diggory finally going to get taken down by Furia, and here comes FaZe as they saw Kale from Damwon Kia kind of push into this compound by himself, and he is all alone. No kills here for Damwon, and they have to wait out one more placement spot to get any points for that.
4 a.m. has just decided if they can't make it, then they're going to try to make sure that Shoot to Kill can't make it either. Nice connecting shots onto Luke, but 4 a.m. just running along. Kale's going to go ahead and go down. That's 9th place. Still not going to get in the placement points for Kia. Shoot to Kill now looking back up the hillside. Spots out 4 Angry Men. They get eliminated as well. But you can see now the opposite high ground is going to be Zenith. With the way that we're looking at the positioning from the circle, you're getting a really good idea from Shinboy's positioning. You can see a very steep drop-off right after this. I was going to say incline, but it depends on perspective. If you're down inside of Gex's positioning or maybe Burram's positioning, you're going to be able to have a very difficult situation looking up this hillside. Also, teams rotating through, you can see very difficult terrain, but does mean the fact that you have a couple of different points that you can maybe kind of hide this one out if you're one of the solos.
Yeah, that's definitely a professional skater incline there. That one is steep and deep. You're going to have to really get your momentum going. I don't know if Zenith has any vehicles. I haven't been able to catch it on camera. If they do, that's going to make it coming down that hill not super difficult, but if they don't, very, very difficult, and it's going to be potentially even harder with TSG rolling up their backside from the west, but they're going to continue to watch. At the very least, they're going to be able to get a lot of good information. The real question is, can they put it to use, or will they get backsided and blindsided by TSG from behind? You can see Burram has managed to take control of the warehouse there. GEX came down off the mountain into the U-shaped house. It's still FaZe over on the east. A couple members, or one member of Furia, I believe, just Necro down there in that shack, and then SDK is too.
Look at Sia's positioning up here. I mean, it's right along the edge of the zone, so high likelihood gonna have to rotate. And when you have to rotate from this point, high likelihood you can die. I mean, you can see the reason why, but for right now, you can just absolutely assert dominance on everything that's going on. Sia being patient with it, trying to see if he can pick it up, but Kickstart says, hey, that's mine. I got the knock onto it. Sia then looks back down towards Kickstart, tries to get a little bit more damage, but ends up finding Shinboy. Gets the damage onto him, but not enough to get a knock. Grenade rain starting to come through, but Zenith doing a good job of playing right up against the wall right now, so that way they can try to avoid any of these higher angles. Necro has managed to sneak his way into position right now, but it's a lot of very peculiar repositions as Sia just has some goals. He is super pissed at Zenith right now, and Roth now playing a sneaky angle of his own, and Sia's going to be walking into a trap, not even realize it. Shots are going to come through onto that one. There you go. Roth got an easy pickup off that one. Going to go ahead and flush out the boy that's been messing with his teammates for quite a while. Now, 2 members still up for Triumphant Song Gaming. Might opt to make a similar approach into this, but Roth holding that the way he did could probably pump the brakes onto it. But Ping, he looks like that just made him even more mad.
Yeah, I mean, TSG needs to clear Zenith out of this if they're going to make it across the road, assuming that's where the circle ends up. If it is on the northern side of the road, I don't know if it can. It might just end on the road itself. We'll see where the circle wants to go. It just kind of all depends, as this, the top of this mountain has to be cut out pretty soon here. And yeah, we're going to head right towards the center of this road. So this is a wild one, Matchroom. This is one of the closest to this cliff faces I have ever seen, and now Peng has a good read on where Roth is, thanks to the sacrifice of his teammate Shia. Grenades are going to come out in return, but that one a little bit too heavy on the throat from Zenith. They have to. These teams have to deal with each other on the top here, one way or another. I don't see a way that they aren't going to come out of this without one team, winning this battle.
All pressure is on to Triumphant Song Gaming. They're the ones that are having to make the push. They do spot out Shin Boy playing the opposite side of the smoke. Ping, good awareness on this. Roth now still leaned up against the wall, not going to get vision just yet. More throwables coming through, and you have to be so careful playing through here because while you're trying to dodge out the nades, the Molotovs, you have to make sure that you don't fall down this hillside. Otherwise, you won't be able to make it back up. Ping's going to have to commit into a reposition from this. Shin Boy is now down, and that lines us up into a 2v2 situation. There's a lot of very interesting rotations that are happening in the low ground positions as well. As you can see, FaZe opting in, sending it along the key lines where we see Gex is kind of setting up. So now FaZe has a little bit of a troublesome situation. They're rolling through, do manage to get away from that, but they have that front wall that they can at least get a little bit of time from if they opt in staying there. There we go. CC tosses the nade over into position, but a little bit too undercooked. So instead going to go out too far. FaZe now getting themselves into a decent spot. Let's see if they can get their third member into position while we look back into this fight going on between Triumphant Song Gaming.
Yeah, that first grenade almost knocked Uba. Had he gotten knocked, this would be way easier for GEX for many reasons. Peng now going to get involved, looking towards Gustav as he starts to drive his buggy in towards the fight. Uba trying to keep people pinned at the U-shape house. Gustav now going to put his buggy in the smoke. It's still Peng. He has a couple different situations he has to deal with. Watching FaZe, figuring out what they're doing. If they can win this fight against Zenith, they might, have to fight them next. So they need to know what's going on. And Zenith has enough of the rocks in the way that they're able to avoid the sight lines of the people below for right now. But it's TSG continuing to push forward, but they're just not able to get these grenades into the spots where Zenith has backed off into.
Well, these two teams fighting right now saves the other teams in the low ground positions. A lot of them do not have firm defensive points that will protect them from this high ground vantage. They don't have the buildings, the top cover coming into play. So the longer this fight goes on, it really benefits teams like the last member for Shoot to Kill or even FaZe. So with the peak battle now starting to come into a little bit closer range, you can see it's all about key positioning. Ping showing very little fear, moving right up into the face of Zenith. Does get flashbang, near on no life, has to drop back down towards his belly, but it's going to be Sean. Tries to get a little bit of a play, picks back up on the top of it, and Kickstart finally gets the victory on that one, taking down Triumphant Song Gaming. Him and Roth should have the high ground advantage. Now it just comes down to where's the circle going to move to, and can they continue to play it?
Dude, Kickstart has been playing out of his mind in this tournament. He comes up big again for Zenith here, saving their bacon against TSG. Nicely done on that repeat, coming up over the top. It was a tough position for TSG. Once they're up on top of that flat rock, they're very exposed. They have a disadvantage, but still, they still got a good opening knock, and Kickstart able to regroup, get the win for them. Now it is Alo alive for STK, trying to hold on against Buriram United. This is a tall order, but Buriram doesn't have a real lock on where he is. Look at this. They are completely focused on the far western side, and meanwhile, Alo has made his way easterly into the circle. So Buriram is going to sweep the edge here. There's going to be nothing for them to find, and Alo, he might get lucky if Zenith starts putting some fire down into Buriram if they come up over that way. We'll see, though. It kind of depends on how Zenith's rotation path occurs coming down that mountain. I say that Edie comes up and over, makes quick work of Alo there, and there you go. SDK down, 4 teams left.
Gex with the 4-man still up, but they've got FaZe right there knocking on their door. Buriram trying to reposition in the low ground, then Zenith up in this high ground point. You can see Kickstart trying to rein in the damage, but it's a very difficult peak along this hill. He does have the hillside to protect his from everywhere but his head, so he has to be very cautious onto this. Roth now getting into a position where maybe he can assist as well. It's a very retaliation shot back and forth. Buriram now deciding, okay, maybe this is a little bit too hazardous, having to reposition, and that's going to put them back along the same positionings where we see Gex and FaZe. This fight has been stalled out for a little while. A lot of utility and smoke coming into play. FaZe really on the hunt for kills. Already one member knocked for Gex, but you can see Neron no vision inside this barn right now. It's just peeked back and forth while Buriram dropping a ton of smokes on the outside of this as well. Uba gets the knock onto yet another Gex member.
This is great timing for Buriram, but Roth with some really good shooting. Gonna catch Kanaxi from smoke to smoke. CC watching the door, getting a lot of damage. He's gonna have to outduel some high-class talent, and Fuzzface around the side trying to put some pressure, opening that door for his teammates to try to entry. But CC is gonna hold on, and okay, they are in. Uba has wrapped around to the other door now. Fuzzface getting a nice headshot on to CC. He's been playing fantastic this weekend. Buriram getting absolutely slaughtered by Zenith. That's 5 kills for Roth. And now Buriram with God Meow left. He's looking to get the res, but it's not going to come through.
I mean, we just have Zenith up at the top throwing out yellow cards all over the place. They're just refereeing the entirety of the fight that's happening in the low ground positioning. That's going to be Buriram finally getting involved in this fight, much to Gex's detriment, but Fuzzface also goes down inside of this. Now Leo looking back to Uba, does manage to connect into him, and that's going to eliminate FaZe Clan. Buriram now starting to have a little bit of awareness on what could be going on. Zenith manages to get out of this high ground positioning, is going to be rolling right into a perfect point. Leo keeping a peek on the angle. Godmeow says, no, you're not going to be able to get that one away onto me. So now we've just got 2 teams up, and Buriram trying to inflict damage back over towards him. Does manage to connect onto Roth, and now we've got a solid 1v1 kickstart up in the high ground. Godmeow back down towards the bottom, and it's going to be both of these members having to move into a wide open terrain piece, and you're going to have to fight it out.
I mean, this is an odd finish. The sniper battle to get this one down. It's enemy at the gates here with God Meow and Kickstart. Kickstart's got the rocks. God Meow's got the building. They're both inside of this circle. So this is going to be really fascinating. How many smokes does Kickstart have? There's a lot of dead bodies that were littered up through there. The real question is how many has he been able to get to pick them up? I mean, meanwhile, God Meow, speaking of dead bodies, there's plenty inside of the stable for him to loot. I don't know, again, how many smokes are left, because a lot of smokes were used to get to this position by both FaZe Clan and Buriram. So it all depends on what's left off of GEX. This is going to be a interesting 1v1 to finish this one out.
Well, Kickstart has such a good vantage point, so even if we see smokes come out, he might be able to see over the positioning as we see God Meow move between the two. God Meow knows that he's in trouble, but do note, Kickstart has got his back right up against the wall and is going to have to be the first one to move. That's why there's a little bit of a bait going back between this. God Meow doesn't know the exact positioning on this, but also knows he's fairly close to the zone as well. Going to have to be moving quite early, so it's almost like a game of, for lack of a better term, chicken. You can see that it's right up against the wall right now, so smoke starting to come through. Kickstart's going to have to start making his move forward into this. Or who's going to spot out who first? Kickstart makes the jump down, but there's nowhere to go. Buriram managed to pick it up. 7 kills, having to navigate a very hazardous last circle.
I mean, Zenith, if they had been able to finish off Buriram when they were crossing towards that U-shape, it would have been their round. But God Meow gets through alive, comes in, finishes the job. What a round for Buriram there. This one started off, Matchroom, with them fighting Damwon Kia, picking off under early. That fight never really kicked off in full. Buriram was rotating up through the road, and they took some losses along the way. They almost lost, 2 members. They only lost 1, so they come through with 3. And they're pretty quiet. An unusual Buriram round in a way, with only 7 kills in the win.
You can see Zenith not too pleased about that one. They know whenever Roth went down, it made it so much more difficult for them to try to get any successes inside of that one. Kickstart knew the moment that he made any form of move or jump down, you're going to have that little moment where you're staggered and can't do much. And that was just great plays coming out for Buriram, who yet again, aggressive, like you were just talking about, from the earlier sections of the game all the way through this one. We saw them repositioning and even getting involved in the fight that we saw going on between FaZe and Gex, getting a little bit of a backside rotation into it. Buriram is just involved in everything, it feels like. Whenever we start getting to the fight stages, they just take on any team that's around them. and you love to see the confidence come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. They're an insanely talented team. We know it, and even when they're down to a solo, they do a great job. Matt, they're just so fun to watch.
The circles, though, were, let's just say, probably the main villain and what most teams were working around inside that one. You mentioned it during the cast. You don't tend to see that circle too often with that large of an incline and where all the teams just having to really compete and deal around with what's going on where there's such a high ground advantage. I cannot wait to hear what the analyst desk has to say about that one. So guys, give us a breakdown on what you saw.
A wild and crazy finish that ultimately ends up in the hands of Ultimate Bravery Buriram, the SEA Superstars. What a game, what a wild circle. And like Matt said, there is a lot to talk about through that one, Clover. In the end, Zenith, man, there's just not much they could do, was there?
No, it was a really heartbreaking for them at the end. You know, Roth and Kickstart kind of caught in those unfortunate situations that I think all of us who have played PUBG have felt, you know, running with your arms out, trying to get a little bit of that speed coming down the mountain, realizing you're getting a shot, and caught pulling out your weapon, you know? And then, of course, at the very end with Kickstart, jumping off the mountain, getting caught a little bit in that jump landing animation, and no time to react. So a heartbreak for them, but the work that they put in, we could see the match results actually going to lead them on top there with 18 points for 12 of them coming from kills.
Yeah, the pain of a heartbreak gets softened quite a bit when you manage to pick up a boatload of kills along with it, Cameron. But you know, we always talk about the impact of the hard shifts and how much they kind of alter the game setting altogether. But this time, these hard shifts, they altered even more so by including so much weird terrain features, didn't it?
Yeah, it was that, I believe it was phase 2 or 3, at some point right before that phase 4 shift off of unplayable land, we saw Gex's big high position on that hilltop full of unplayable land. So we knew that it was going to shift down away from that position towards the southern hemisphere, which is the circle, that is, which is why we saw 80% of the teams in the southern side, and that alone thinned out the herd eventually to make it a sort of slower early to late stages of the mid game, early stages of the end game, which in turn did give teams like Zenith and TSG a little bit of extra time to take their engagement, didn't have to rush things like they could have necessarily in other situations. But that hilltop dead center made it incredibly complicated, incredibly difficult for all these teams on the south. We even saw Zenith have to blind send it somewhere to the middle because there was nowhere to play. We saw Furia continuing to hold on to the west side of the edge of the circle because there was virtually nowhere else to play. When half the circle you know is not going to be in the game, you know for a fact it's not going to be in the game in a matter of 2 phases, you're not going to go there more often than not anyway. It's just not worth it.
You see the FaZe boys were all smiles after that one. A good game from them, ultimately going out to GEX on the compound push. GEX, for their part, find themselves in the late game, Clover, but only a couple of points. That's going to pull them up from the bottom of the table, but not a whole heck of a lot there, as we see they are now, well, I guess they doubled their points, so now sitting at 16. Damwon Kia, though, still in dead last.
You know, I mean, if they had gotten a few more kills, that would have been enough to lap up K7 there. But, you know, Global did have opportunities to lose that out. They had very close neighbors in Buriram that game, and we saw Buriram use that as a good opportunity to capitalize on kill. You know, Buriram had 7, and most of them came from those compounds that Buriram and Gex were playing throughout that event. I think Buriram's only kill was that early one Kanoxi got onto Under when Kia unfortunately rotated into them and took that fight really early. I'm not going to waste any time talking on Kia. I know I went into match 1 saying I believe, I feel it, but you know, I'm not seeing it. I'm sorry. I might be joining Cam on this one.
Unfortunate. Well, Cam, I guess I'm gonna have to let you have a little opportunity to put some people on blast here, because I kind of feel like it's necessary. Team Liquid, TSM, both almost at the same time losing crashes respectively to Furia and Detonation Gaming White. Oh god, that's creepy. Okay, not exactly what we're expecting from our European powerhouses here.
I do want to cut them just a little bit, just a touch of slack, because as I mentioned earlier,
why?
because the amount of terrain that it was essentially playable in the middle of the game felt more like an end game. Now, Liquid's particular crash on Detonation Gaming was really, really chaotic, really sloppy. So even in context, it still didn't look like that great of a moment for them. And for the TSM side of things, that one, I'm sorry to say, it looks a little more like the TSM that we've seen for the past couple of weeks. I said this yesterday, they haven't been the team that we saw at the very beginning of this tournament when Wookie was really showing that he was a suitable replacement for Vex, when Iroh was winning games with a pump shotgun in hand. They've been on a little bit of a slump recently, and I know that as players, they can perform very, very well. Vard actually had, I believe, a really good moment yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, or at some point somewhat recently.
Yeah.
But whatever they had at the very beginning of this event seemed to have slipped away just a little bit. It's the Liquid one that I'm a little more caught off guard by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, losing 2 to a Molotov, never really how you want to go down, but maybe we need to start giving Detonation Gaming White a little bit more of their flowers while they are performing so well right now, holding off that squad. They do lose their first place overall spot to Zenith, as we did see from that overall leaderboard. Meanwhile, another team, Clover, that we were saying needed to have a big performance today. You know, nothing super overly impressive, but they managed to collect quite a few points out of that first game.
Yeah, I mean, you could, on some way, say the Circle, shoot to kill was really on a crowded edge, and they did a decent job for keeping the team moderately up through all of that. But they only walked away with 4 kills, and that is, again, a team that we know can take those scoring chances and really capitalize on them. They did have a lot of pressures in that position from 4 a.m., from even Buriram at one point, from a lot of the different teams in the area. So I think that if you can give them maybe a little bit better RNG, that factor could have been really a lot better in their favor. But, really quickly too, I do kind of want to touch base on ENCE, because this is another team that I think is just silently performing in the middle of the road right now. They're finding kills. They got 6 that match. They're getting themselves some decent opportunities, but just kind of getting themselves caught out without a plan B or C once that Circle hard shifts away from them. So I really like what I'm starting to see from them, but I want to see just a tad bit more.
Yeah, it seems we're seeing a little bit of slow decision making from some of these teams in a lobby that's kind of almost requiring you to be able to quickly think on your feet and be able to make quick movements, quick transitions, quick rotations. We do have a little bit of a technical pause here while we get everybody in the lobby, so we're going to be talking a little bit longer than we normally would. I know, chat, you guys love hearing us talk and giving you all this valuable information. Cameron, GEX had the perfect position on the north side. Nobody, we were talking about that. We could actually touch on that too, since we got a little bit more time. Nobody making the long rotation to the north side. So they have the ideal high ground position. They then move to the ideal compound. They still keep 4 up and somehow still are not able to clutch it out. Is this what's going on with GEX here? Are they just kind of out of their element here?
Oh yeah, 100%. Coming into this event, they were solidly in the bottom tier of my expectations of the teams coming into this event. Am I saying that they're a bad team? No, but these are the 32 best teams, alleged, up of the best teams in the world, and there are going to be teams that aren't as good as other teams, and unfortunately, Gex, they're down there, and sure, they've gotten better over the course of this event, but who wouldn't when you're basically put into a pressure chamber, a hyperbolic time chamber for all you weebs out there, classic 90s weebs, that is, to get at least a little better. But I expected them to not have had the brightest of games, even in that position, mostly because despite that position in the middle of that field, it's a compound, it's a field that's open area. It's not the easiest to find good angles and good shots around you. Oftentimes when we see games around that compound or just compounds of that style, the center team, the team in that compound, doesn't necessarily get that many kills until it ends on their position, and they're just farming teams rushing at them from the field. And unfortunately for them, Zenith took care of that when it came to Buriram, and then they got tied up in the fight with FaZe, which isn't the easiest fight to win, even though they came out with just like 1 or 2 players alive.
That's fair. That's fair. And, and you almost got to see a little bit of a difference between play styles, almost between GEX and Buriram. Both of them had compounds. GEX electing to stay inside of theirs for as long as possible, while Buriram leaving, being on the move, finishing off STK, taking over that side spot, and then being able to third party in on to the GEX phase fight at a perfect time, turning it into a 1v1 sniper, DMR battle, which was pretty much God Meows to lose. But since we do have a little bit of time, I want to pick your brain on something here, Clover. We talk about the fact that the circle had so much open space up to that north side, but yet we did not see any teams really make that long rotation up to the north, at least not until it was very, very late when we saw TSG and Zenith kind of make their way up there. What do you think is the reason behind that? Do you think some of these teams are just not wanting to go any further than they're able to scout?
I think a little bit of that. Some teams tend to favor those long rotations over than others. And in this particular lobby, the teams that we'll typically see go even into the blue to take those rotations were ones that didn't really have that far to wrap. Ints was in Cabrera, and they just kind of walked out to that ridge line where they played and picked up a couple kills, but ultimately is where they fell. And so there wasn't really a need for a long wrap for them. At that point, you already had TSG, Zenith had even kind of made their presence known in that area. Gex had been there for a while, and Zenith, or excuse me, Ents, they were in Oasis to start. They left that position to go further west. So I think in their mind, there's not really a need to wrap back down the way. Additionally, too, for some of those teams that were kind of in those positions, you had FaZe out there on the east side, peacocking a little bit. Gustav kind of sent it up to a little bit of a hillside to play from. And I think that made it harder for teams to take that long wrap around east. So for some of those teams that were in that position, the expectation was that circle was going to shift much harder south than it ended up going. That mountainous zone that Gex was on for so long, and we saw Kickstart up at the end, is typically unplayable, and we'll see the circle shift away from that. And it didn't really. It held on to that for a really long time, and I think that's why we saw the cards fall as they may for a lot of those teams, and why there was so much fighting in the south, because so many 4 stacks and 3 stacks were really trying to fight for positions that just didn't support that amount of traffic.
Cameron, real quick, do you think it's worth making a rotation to a spot that is probably going to be unplayable area and is probably going to fall out of that next circle, even though that spot is going to be probably outside of the next circle, just taking that position knowing that it's going to be free and clear and that you can kind of work with everything coming in front of you?
Okay, so that's obviously it all depends on the context of the terrain.
Right, of course.
In many instances, I could see that being the case. The reason why we didn't see it off at all in this game, and why it really was only Zenith and TSG that went up there, and it almost felt like sort of a last case scenario, because they knew that there was no way for them to comfortably breach Buriram and Gex's compound once we hit the late game, is because that sheer cliff that they would have had to run down, and we saw what happened to Roth and Kickstart, right? And that was when there was only 1 or 2 members left on the opposing forces, not still 30-something players alive. But then also the fact that even once you make it down that cliff, you then have a road into a field. So the terrain to leave that area does not support the decision to go there. I love when teams play edge. Some of my favorite teams are what I call edge sweep teams. Well, the whole focus is we're not going to be in the center. We are going to use the blue to our advantage to cover our back, so we only need to focus our attention on one significantly limited direction. That zone, that area of the north side, did not allow for that play.
Well, it looks like we are getting everybody into lobby. We are about to head into our next game, Clover. We've had Buriram with the big win. Do you think we'll see them continue their streak of victory, or is it going to be somebody new?
I would love to see the motivation. I'd love to see somebody get a hat trick in the weekend. But at the same time, I think that we're seeing a couple of teams really show it. I want to say maybe even FaZe. FaZe and Zenith have had a lot of second places, top 4s thus far this weekend. I think that this could be a good game for one of them to maybe take that chicken dinner.
Well, right now we see that leaderboard. There is a very big log jam from 6th to 13th, all in the 20s. And that is going to be a lot of shuffling, and we know how important as many opportunities as you can get during those weekly survival series are. So there's going to be a lot of shuffling coming up. Who's going to be the one to take this next game? Let's find out now by sending it over to Paper Thin and Matchroom for game number 2.
Thank you so much, Poro. And yeah, you hit on a great topic right there. We do have a clustered leaderboard, but in addition to that, what strikes me as weird is, think about this, Paper. If you had watched in week 1, imagine if somebody had come up to you and said, hey, Burrom, and then moving into the last week, will be ahead of Team Liquid, Triumphant Song Gaming, TSM, Shoot to Kill, Ints, 4AM, and Damwon Kia. Would you have believed me?
I would have said, wow, Burrom's playing their best PUBG. It's basically what I would have responded with. It would have been hard for me to believe that many good teams that they are outperforming. But these guys they're tenacious. They're fighters. They never give up. They're crazy good. Again, we've seen that their individual talent is through the roof, so that oftentimes translates well to international stages. Teams that have talented, just mechanical abilities, they're going to be the ones that oftentimes find themselves at the top of leaderboards. Of course, the good decision-making and all the other good things that are necessary for top-tier PUBG teams need to happen. But I tell you what, for me, they were my dark horse coming into this event. I said, watch out for Buriram. They haven't maybe performed as well as I would have hoped. I mean, they're getting kind of outpaced by Day Trade in this tournament from their region, but overall, they're really good, man.
It's just fun to watch, and we're starting to see a lot of teams start to lean into what they know how to do best. Leo gets some vision back on multiple AAA members dropping, and that's going to drop one of them. Can't quite spot out Jims as he's going to roll off into the distance, but early pickup and kill going over to Gex. That could be quite pivotal as it gives a little bit more of a lead for our team that is in 16th place. I know, not even picking up a point in that last round, Paper.
Yeah, AAA, it's been a struggle. The second half of this tournament, they had a good week where they qualified, and maybe 2 weeks where they qualified, but the second half has been an absolute disaster. I mean, not even getting, they got 32nd a couple times here, and today, more of the same from them as they've kind of come down to earth. It's been a rough one to watch, no doubt about it. K7, another team that's been struggling here for the teams from Chinese Taipei, K7GX. They tend to struggle a bit in the Asia region, which is, to be fair, probably the most difficult region to play in currently, with Korea and China being in that region as well. But, it is what it is. We've seen moments from K7 where they've looked really good, and I've seen that in Asia too. There's definitely talent on the team. Again, a lot of these things come down to, I think, outside of the game, coaching and analytics need to step it up for some of these regions. Japan is another one I look to start getting them to kind of play more modern PUBG, more progressive PUBG.
Desk hit on a phenomenal point. We've got 3 rounds left, and there are a ton of teams sitting at around 20 points. Sure, we're starting to see the separation really start to kick off for our top 4. Team Liquid kind of in that middling of safety position. And this is another potential setup between Gex and AAA. Svit coming up the hillside, and looks like Jan Lee already has an idea on what's about to go down. Svit as well, already making the switch over. Shots going between the two of them. Jan Lee's got the head vision, though, steps forward, and that's an easy pickup for him. So yet again, Gex picking up a kill onto AAA and already sitting on 2. It's not the best of starts for AAA, as it's going to be full on defense coming up from them now. It's all about safety plays and just maybe trying to sneak into the circle.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by what Svit's thinking there. He's got to know that GEX is lined up along the southern edge of Cruz de Valle there, likely to be up on that prized church. That top ground position there is really, really important around Cruz de Valle. A lot of teams favor it, so you got to be extra cautious. I mean, he knew that something was coming up there, but I don't see the reason to go up that way, and instead to just head further north, either go up into Torre Ahumada, get some loot, do those kind of things, get regrouped with your team, try to make the best finish you can coming into this game. But that's another loss for them, and it looks like some nice little pickup there for Canaxi. He is going to take that AWM. Very, very strong bolter. From time to time, you'll see Buriram pick up the AWM.
That's a scary thing right now. Canaxi's pretty cracked out, right? And he's been enjoying his more violent nature that Buriram has been bringing. So let's just go ahead and give him a strong crate weapon right off the get-go. so that way they can further make influence inside of their X Factor decisions. Divine now making their rotation. They've got Liquid just to the south of them. A lot of teams have kind of vying for position at this stage with a little bit of a northern reposition inside the circle. Don't be surprised if we see a couple of teams making very long rotations trying to get up towards the north. 4AM's holding down a very comfortable position. 4-person split across the center of the circle, just north of where we see Hacienda at. Meanwhile, Zenith just kind of rolling through San Martin. No big real contests should be coming to them. They're kind of the front leaders on it. Kickstart's already playing a little bit further forward, so should be able to regroup with them in just a moment. Really early rotations could be very big for a lot of these teams, as you're going to be able to get prime positions. We often see like this area that's around water treatment, the buildings that are just to the south of it, that area of in between water treatment, Hacienda having some very valuable positions if you manage to get them early.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a pretty good chance that the circle ends up somewhere. It could go north still. There's only a few mountains that are unplayable in this circle, so it still has a lot of different directions that it could shift. But yeah, for 4 a.m., that they're covering that area, as you can see here, kind of from Zenith's viewpoint, to that eastern field that's over there. It's really hard for teams to drive through there. So with 4 a.m. set up the way they are, they're really trying to make it difficult for anybody to come from the south east to the northwest. That's a very difficult road to drive through. It's very exposed. You're going to be shot at from a couple different angles typically. The real question is if somebody slams into, say, Crazy's compound, does he have an escape valve? Is he going to be able to get out of there if that happens? Right now, though, all the teams are kind of bottlenecked southeast of him, with Damwon, Kia, TSM being the two big ones down there, and a couple members of Buriram at the crossroads as well. But driving through there is a risky proposition because there's that compound that's just to the northeast of Forever that's very valuable in a circle like this, and a lot of teams are going to be keying on that. And oh boy, speaking of risky propositions, this one for Clib not going to pay off as Zenith. We talked about this position earlier. We've seen a couple teams do very well from here. ENCE and MCG come to mind as teams that have been in that compound and had good rounds. And Team Liquid is thinking about it, and they're going to pay the price.
That's the benefit of early rotation in this circle. Strong compounds. ENCE, Squeaky, do you have a read that this is going to be happening to you? Oh, nope, no idea that one was coming. Squeaky already down, easy flush. Gex managing to pick up another kill for them already. They're finding these little sneaky kills off the get-go, and that's going to be a pretty big benefit for them. As you can see now, they've already caught up and tied up with K7. Shoot to kill towards the east. They've been kind of caught up with Triumphant Song Gaming rotating through. The eastern area pretty open. We'll probably see Shoot to Kill approaching Death Star Trench here in just a little while. I wouldn't be surprised if they opt into maybe playing towards the north of that, so that way they get a little bit more vision and control in the hillside.
Did you just call it Death Star Trench?
Yes. Wow,
I love that.
Nobody's
I've never
heard
heard that. That's amazing. That's a perfect name for that.
It is. It's just this really deep trench that you often see, like everybody trying to fight their way out from the center of, and people in cars rolling through it. I'm surprised that so many of you guys haven't heard that one before.
Matt, you've given me so much more fodder for my casting. Now I can use all those hours upon hours I spent watching Star Wars as a kid to good use. Finally, I have a reason to add that into my casting. Now, I want to talk about FaZe here real quick, Matt. In that last round, I really loved the rotations they made around that eastern side to get on the other side of the road where there was no one. They were in a spot where the circle was pretty likely to end up because there was still that northern mountain in there around phase 4. The circle has to move away from that eventually, and it's likely to move further away from it than it did. It ended up really darn close to the mountain, about as close as possible there, with it finishing towards the road. But where FaZe put themselves gave them a really darn good chance to win that last game. It just was a hard shifted, I don't want to say hard shifted, but a brutally shifted circle towards the unplayable terrain.
I mean, FaZe has been performing well whenever we see them get into the firefight positions. One of the things that you should be noted regarding what's happening with FaZe, specifically this week through the Survival Series, was... Wait, what? Oh, I guess K7 picking up the teammate after they had a flipped vehicle. I was going to say that you don't want to commit to that for too long, trying to flip that back over in your favor, as there's just going to be way too many third parties. But anyway, back to FaZe. It seems like they would find strong positions, and then two other teams would repeatedly want to take that position from them, and usually we would see FaZe in a pinched point. This time they're making a little bit more of a slow approach into this. So now that we're back into the super settings, they're leaning into playing edge a little bit. They're right now the most western team, and pretty north as well. So if we do see a circle shift that goes in their favor, it's going to be very beneficial for them. As with the split that they have right now, they've already got a lot of the good territory claimed, and there you go, does pop up next to water treatment plant, so that means that is going to be beneficial for them, and now they get first option on how they want to regroup. As well on this, Burrow already inside of vehicles, and I love to see the heads-up awareness from this. A lot of these teams already were prepped right next to their vehicles, hopped in, and instantly made it for a reposition.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see if Damwon Kia can somehow recover from a disaster in that first game. Having Under by himself on that fence line, now we don't exactly know what happened that Under ended up in that position, but that's a really bad position for a couple reasons. A, his teammates have no ability to really support him for anybody that tries to catch him from that compound, especially if they come from the southern side where Buriram was. From the other side of that wall line, there's 4AM up on the hills. You had another team down to the south. I can't remember if it was SDK at the time. SDK ended up going to the other side of that hill underneath 4AM, but another team on the other side. So he's really exposed on that fence line. He has no cover fire from his teammates. And then to make matters worse, he peeks around the corner. I mean, he's in a desperate spot, and he knows it. Ooh, speaking of desperate, that's not going to be good for Team Liquid, as they're going to be desperate now, losing too early. But going back real quick to Under's position there, coming around that corner, he didn't have many options. And, you know, for Burram, they just land better shots. It's a tough one, a tough angle for him with that car, giving Connexy a lot of cover in that situation. It's Kia cannot make the right decisions at all. And it's really frustrating to watch.
Well, maybe they'll be able to right the ship, or the sandbagging will continue. I feel at this point they've got enough sandbags down, though, to, like, reposition a river of their choice. I mean, it's not just like trying to dam everything up and prep for, like, maybe high water. They are specifically trying to redirect oceans with the amount of sandbags that they managed to stack up. Crate kind of going to drop out, but that's a bait crate. Don't go for it. If you go for that, you're as good as dead. Maybe towards the later sections of this, we might see an opportunity for it, but with the way that the circle is playing right now, we still have the fields that are around Hacienda that's eating up a good section of it. Water treatment plant as well. It's has its strengths if you commit into water treatment plant, but the issue is that it's also kind of problematic to leave. A lot of eyes get drawn to that location, so you can find yourself being third, fourth, fifth parted quite efficiently. So we see a lot of the teams that are kind of avoiding that right now. Instead, leaning into hillsides, leaning into dips, trying to see if maybe they can find a repositionable point, and that becomes map knowledge. This is all about making sure you know where the dips are going to be strong, specifically in the circle, and trying to figure out where other people are going to be playing next to you, denying vision and making sure you have the best advantages moving forward. Purdy Curdy, not in the most advantageous position right now. He does have K7 that's pretty close to him, but K7 is going to have to move from that point. It's going to be a matter of how K7 opts into moving around shoot to kills positioning. You can see Luke 12 already waiting to see if maybe he can catch them in rotation, but Purdy playing pretty close to them at this stage. Is a little bit of a dance happening at the top of the hillside as Xenon's just kind of, I don't know, looks like he was maybe scouting out towards the distance.
Well, now Purdy's going to have to find some way to get out of this. All eyes of SDK are on K7 on Purdy's backside right now, and you can see Savior's going to cross underneath the road. I think there's just enough of an incline on that hill that he's able to get underneath it. That's a nice little maneuver here by Savior. Circle is finding its way as well into K7's Zednon and Purdy Curdy, but Savior does cross. Is Purdy going to see him? Is a big question. I think maybe if Purdy kind of points his eyes over that way, he will. Here comes, I was talking about this road, dangerous to drive down. Dom1 Kia is making a go for it.
Well, there you go. Purdy finally lines up onto Savior, gets the drop on him. Xenon still playing around this position, might be able to inflict a little bit of damage. Kia is just running along the road right now, taking a little bit of damage as they go. Looks like they might have their eyes set towards Divine's positioning. No, instead opts up a little bit further. There is a couple of places you can play on this northern ridge positioning, so it looks like that might be where they're opting to play from. They're going to go ahead and stop, pump the brakes right here, but the problem is there's going to be a lot of teams with high ground vision on what's happening into this point. Fury is also rolling up right back behind them. Oh no, Team Liquid flips the vehicle in the worst spot! Furia just runs them over. That was just the easiest 2 kills you could potentially ever ask for.
Oh no! This has just been a disaster from the get-go for Team Liquid, and oh my word, is Kia actually going to set it up in a phase? Please don't. Okay, good. Uva put some shots into them. Gets a headshot into Kale even, and that's going to put them underneath in the shacks. This one looks pretty familiar. if you see this, this is where SDK was last round matchroom, with 4 a.m. being where FaZe is now. GEX has a great start. Are they going to duel with Detonation Gaming White? Detonation Gaming White with a 3-1 split is going to start pushing their way in towards the saloon here at the compound. Machao driving around on his own. He's kind of going to provide that kind of solo role for Detonation Gaming White. Often in Japan, they refer to him as the Japanese PO. And that's not me just making that up. That's literally what the Japanese fans call him. He's a very talented player in his region. He's always up there as one of the top fraggers. So a guy to keep your eyes out for. Although in this tournament, I'd say Gokuri and C's have been really showing up, which is a nice addition for Detonation Gaming White.
We're in an interesting situation to the southeast. We've got Shoot to Kill outside the safe zone, Burram to the north of them, TSM, K7, 4 a.m. all playing around this position points. TSM looks like they're going to go ahead and start trying to make their rotation, but you can see there are so many teams around them, it's going to be really complicated to try to roll through this one. Starting off the shots inside the gauntlet, it's going to be Shoot to Kill that gets vision onto him as well as K7. TSM now rolling along, trying to reposition around, but there's going to be 4 a.m. members that could have sight lines to work with. Wookie Bookie just jumps out. He gets spotted out by Crazy. Good play, heads up, awareness coming out from Crazy, and there's going to be another peek back between this one, and it's TSM opting to make a stop into this position so that way they can clear out a little bit more time and now rotate through. Now, Shoot to Kill, pressing up along the hillside. 4 Angry Men just has a team rolling right up into them. No real options to work with, but somehow we can see K7 manages to ride that through with just Lock still up. Should be able to get the res, but this is a very dangerous position to play.
Yeah, that was almost disaster for K7. They get a little bit fortunate there that it's just one member of 4 a.m. left. The rest of them are busy dealing with TSM. So this 2-2 split that 4 a.m. attempted did not really pay off, getting crashed by two different teams at once. They did damage to them, but they're not really able to hang on effectively. Nawadra push it up over the hill. TSM going to be the ones to back him off as he was thinking about getting into SDK, but it's going to be the combined fire of a couple different teams as SDK's Luke 12 puts some good shots into Nawadra, finishes off Canaxi. He's been coming alive here the last couple days. He's out in the blue, though. It's going to be a bit of a rocky road to get forward. Grenade going to finish the job.
That was about the max distance you could potentially get that grenade. We're now down to just one member. Luke 12 is going to go out inside the blue zone. Probably not going to be Resbul. Penta's going to be the point man still playing over here. But you can see Pretty Curdy off in the distance, trying to get some distance from TSM, but that's going to reveal him from Godmeow's high ground positioning. Not a lot of options to play with. It's going to be on Pentalol to see if maybe he can chain something together to protect his teammate. Pentalol doesn't have the vision for it, but Godmeow already has a read on what's happening. Looks through, but no! It's going to be connecting shots coming back up. And both teams just destroying each other along this blue zone. Not a lot of options. TSM being the beneficiary from all of the third-party fighting.
Yeah, Purdy Curdy going to be the only one alive for SDK. 5 kills for them. Not a bad round by any stretch of the imagination, but getting forward and getting placement points going to be rather difficult. He could work his way through water treatment. It's open. On fire is Ents now. Diggory trying to hold on, but there's too much fire for him to handle. And that's going to be a knock in the bag here. Rusty looking to finish the job with the frag now. Going to bounce it in there. Should be good, indeed. Rusty gets a nice, easy point for himself. Detonation Gaming White and GX finally have found the moment where they have to fight with the circle, forcing the issue heading down.
This is a little bit of a moment for Furia as well, as it buys them a little bit of time to reset. You can see Detonation Gaming White has a little bit of vision into that position. Instead, Detonation Gaming White moving down the hillside. Gex does have the gatekeeping position, but you can see due to the amount of smokes and secondary fire, as now it looks like Divine as well as Furia is looking up the hillside. Gex is going to have a little bit of extra cover that's coming in to provide a little bit of assistance for them. June's already going to line up back over into God Curry. Now it's just a matter of how we're going to see this one play out. 4 a.m. on the other side of this, still caught up with TSM. TSM's now having to test up against 4 a.m. as well as Trampet Song Gaming towards the north. Not a lot of options for TSM to really roll through, as you can see them rolling down the hillside, just trying to get away from everything that's happening to him. A little bit of jukes coming out from Iroh as he's just having to run through this one and somehow manage to survive. But in the end, it's still going to be the connecting shots coming out from Triumphant Song Gaming to take them out.
Well, Detonation Gaming White, their indecisiveness, their passiveness is going to prove deadly for them. As you can see, Machao does get taken down. He got a couple members of GEX going with him. He manages to pick up Leo there. Looks like they're going for the reses. I think there's just enough of the edge of the circle there to maybe get them. Nope, they're going to get taken down from afar by Fuzzface. Blue is going to finish the job on a Yan Li, so only CC left for GX. But Detonation Gaming White kind of has to recognize that downhill situation. They're going to be exposed to a lot of the circle. They have to hit that hard onto PGX. They can't take their time with that fight. There really just isn't going to be enough to set up with how fast that blue moves, with how fast that phase moves as well. Now it's Zenith's turn. They're on the south edge of all of this. They're going to have to make a move through 4AM, LG Divine, a couple teams down on the bottom.
This has been a messy circle, to say the least. Now our next set of teams are rotating. We've got Zenith. You can see starting to get a little bit more information on what's happening in the compound down below them. 4AM getting a little bit closer towards Divine's positioning, where they've been playing with vision galore and harassing all the teams along the high ground. Kickstart's trying to look back in the positioning of 4AM as they're trying to just hold down this shack, but you can see it's not comfortable. Turtle's now starting to get in grenade range, and that's going to be a little problematic. That's going to go right in there. It's a hole in one without a doubt. So now Lou going to be down. This is going to be pretty problematic, because I believe that God B is now the last member up, playing very close to Divine's positioning. FaZe also going to have to make a rotation and potentially roll down the hillside, what might put them in vision of Furia as well as AAA. We're going to see Zenith firmly regroup into this, and this is just going to be a bloodbath, as everybody's going to be forced more and more probably into Divine's positioning, and you can see not a lot of good cover to work with for a lot of these teams. So vehicles are going to be a key point, maybe some of these rotations, or at least smokes. You don't really want to use a lot of the utility just quite yet, though.
Yeah, exactly. You're really hoping you can hang on to this, and Bang even going to reach out into the blue to pick up some of that valuable utility you're talking about. FaZe still 4 up on the hillside, working their way down, and it's going to be AAA trying to rotate across their firing lines. Fuzzface has an AWM. A lot of AWMs coming down in the crates. You love to see it. It's one of my favorite guns to watch the players try to land those incredible shots with. Gems is going to find a rock. Now Jayer's out in the open. Fuzz trying to line the shot up, just not able to get enough of a vision on top of Jayer's to go for it here. You can't shoot through the backpack. There it is. Fuzz finds Jayer's. Very well timed.
Love to see that one. Fuzzface, the rest of FaZe should be able to regroup at that hillside now that they've done even more damage at AAA. That's going to make their life even easier. You can see Jims. Again, that keeps throwing me. Jims and Jeems already in the same one. But Jims now just going to have to lean into full-on defensive row. It should be noted, Fury has a very strong ridgeline that they're playing right now. They've got control points that they can play from. They're very separated. They're looking really through everything that's happening. The aggressors and team that can really mess with their positioning is going to be Triumphant Song Gaming, playing that high ground position back behind them, but not an easy rotation for them to work with. New Circle's going to be popping in just 1 second. I wouldn't be surprised if we're probably going to see Kia and Divine in halfway decent positioning, with the rest of the team is probably going to have to move in some form of factor. That's going to be the case, but still also providing enough positioning to allow FaZe to hold down their position as well.
Yeah, for FaZe, this isn't too bad at all, and they can work their way towards that hillside you could see to their south. That's going to be pretty nice for them if they're able to maintain control over that northern edge. I can see Fury is at least lined up. They might think about trying to rotate in that direction, because otherwise they have to cut through LG Divine's compound or something like that. And Zenith, they might even wrap all the way around, but there is Damwon Kia that's going to be watching this, and I don't think there's enough of this plateau in the circle anymore for them to stay on top of it. So the drive down begins. Damwon Kia's shots going to connect a little bit of damage. Under is going to get the knock into Shinboy, so he is going to have to be left behind. They take a whole bunch of damage to get up to the top, but the circle has enough of it in here still, Matt, that they can chill in this shack.
I would say making that rotation and only losing one is probably a pretty good scenario for them. There was a decent chance that they would get too many firing lines thrown up against them. Luckily, only Under managed to connect into this. You can see Furia now getting a little bit more aggressive into the positioning, starting to look into last member, where we've got Ints holding up the last member for AAA as well. Do you know that Triumphant Song Gaming does look like they're starting to do this back flank, rolling right up back behind Furia. Rustamar does provide a little bit of assistance, kind of protecting the team that's making an aggressive play towards him. Triumphant Song Gaming rolls right through. Necro already down, but it's going to be a little bit of a position back behind this one. So there is still one man up back behind this for Furia that maybe can make a play to work with. But now with just one member up for Triumphant Song Gaming, not inside the safe zone, and is going to have to roll through a very difficult position. Meanwhile, Molotov's coming in yet again. Rustamar just trying to tank this one through. Looks like he is going to be able to survive.
He found just enough of a corner inside of the shack where the fire hadn't spread. He's able to hang on, but there's only one way in and out of those shacks, and it's going to take some smokes and some flashes to get out, probably. He has to heal again as well. And Rusty looking for his second grenade shack of the round. Going to send it in just short of the door. It actually explodes right out front of the door. Catches a lot of Rusty, Molly, or the shots either way. Rusty is going to win that one onto Rustin Mar. There's the Rust battle right there. Those two players dueling it out. Fury having a pretty good round now, trying to see if they can finish off Shandion and TSG.
This is a key example of what we talk about. Whenever you have a control point and you're spread a little bit too thin, Furia had so much control in what was going into this, but then it was just Triumphant Song Gaming that managed to walk in, get a couple of kills as they made their push through, and whoa, narrowly survives. Not a lot to work with here. Already blinded up. That's a quick, easy peek over there. So it's going to be Kill Demo that lines up the kill and getting vengeance for his teammates. Now, Furia has a touch of a problem, though. There's not a lot of good options to work with. Fuzzface just absolutely decimates him.
What in the world? What a shot from Fuzz. Only 5 shots left in that AWM, but that was filthy. That's a long-range one. That just shows you how good that boomstick is to have, and it was a fantastic round for Furia, but it looks like the run is indeed over. They're going to go down in 7th place. Circle continues to favor LG Divine, so now Kia Damwon going to have to make a move back over to that warehouse where that battle started in the previous game against Buriram. Where they were hanging out. So kind of interesting how sometimes the circles bring you right back. There's a little bit of deja vu, and Punich lands some good initial shots on the Fuzz face, but that level 3 gear really helps him survive those shots, at least not taking critical damage.
And look at this. FaZe have enough control over this area that they can reposition down the hillside without getting very much aggression thrown towards them. Zenith was really hoping, you could tell, that maybe somebody would opt into third partying, but it's too busy, too hot and heavy back down into the compound itself. Looks like Kia is under, finding a little bit of life inside. They're going to go take down Turtle, get the flush on him as well. So now Kia is starting to get a little bit more control over the compounds and the low ground positioning. Zenith, yet again, in the high ground, just like last round, but now having to contest, move back into these low ground positionings, looking into where FaZe is trying to hold this one through. That's going to be a connection between both of them as well. Is going to go down. Kickstart has to stop for a second, and the grenade rain is coming in. Mini red zone landing right on top of Kickstart. Molotovs on both sides, but it's going to be God V that finds the angle onto it. Zenith with not a lot of options to work with, and FaZe is just rolling through yet again. Fuzzface showing up for his squad.
Yeah, it's been a big weekend for Fuzz. He's going to be the one to get Zenith down. Little help from Godby, who somehow, some way escaped that shack near where LG Divine and Kale are, and has made his way into a much safer position, no doubt about it. Now Uba's turn to find the flanks of Damwon Kia, June as well, trying to keep them from pushing into the warehouse. For Damwon Kia, this is a tough one. They got to make a decision. They got to make it soon because they're going to get caught in the crossfire between FaZe and LG Divine. If they hang out on the backside of this warehouse for much longer, there's just not a lot of cover available outside of that building. And if you get pushed into the warehouse proper, LG Divine has great firing lines on you.
I like this from FaZe. Go ahead and get a little bit more control. They know that there's a member that's playing this fairly centralized point. Just go ahead and deny this one out. With what's happening in the center circle, where the firefighting is breaking through, this is exactly what you want to do. Try to capitalize off of it. No, there goes your cover. That's going to reveal gems, but doesn't really want to take the shots just yet. Go ahead and finish that one out. Yet again, it's going to be Fuzzface with the headshot. Back over into the fight. You can see one of the members for Kia is down. On the other side, it's going to be JN as well, down for Divine. God V is just kind of looking into this thing if maybe he can find an opportunistic kill or two to pick up. He's got a great vision on where these two teams could potentially connect at, but Kale managing to find a very sneaky positioning and actually opts into playing the top of this, could find himself with a great position to really wreak havoc into Divine's positioning.
A lot of this fight depends on Kale for Damwon Kia. If he can get another knock, open some space, maybe Godv will give him a little help as well. That could really open the door for Damwon Kia to at least clean out the southern side. Great grenade, gets some good damage there from LG Divine, but with FaZe in firm control over the top side of the circle, in control over where the star is going to come down, it's looking like a win for FaZe, potentially, depending on how this one shakes out. If Damwon Kia could come out of it with 4, they might be able to use that numbers advantage to win it, but this is going to be really, really hard. I think JN, did he see Kale there behind that box? I don't know if he's actually been able to catch enough of the pixels above that box to know that Kale is hiding there.
Yeah, it's very, very sneaky position. You can see Jen doesn't have any idea, looks in, gets a little bit of damage through, but you can see Divine just doesn't have a lot of options to work with. Instead, just opting into a charge in breach. June leading the way, gets the shots onto Indigo, gets the drop onto him as well. Now it's starting to be a utility battle between the two. Kale finally making a position in the high ground point, but it's going to be God V taking the shots at him to force him to reposition away from it. Now it's turning into a 3-point fight as God V has revealed himself. All of these teams stacked up on top of each other, and the beneficiary of all of this is going to be FaZe, who is just watching listening to the firefight happening and knows the fact that once this starts to calm down, they can just step in and mop it up. Kia got to be super careful. Divine having to look through these angles. 4 a.m. reassessing, realizing where the true threat is, and now trying to get a little bit of damage back into FaZe's positioning. But it is just a peak battle between doorway upon doorway. Indigo steps back over, gets the knock onto him, goes for the flush, and there you go. Divine is down. Kia is starting to get on a little bit of a roll.
Well, now God V trying to finish the job, but he is going to get finished himself. It's going to be Under picking up his second kill. So Damwon Kia comes out with 3. A nice job by LG Divine to even get into that warehouse. That was a tough cross to make, and they put some serious hurt into Damwon Kia along the way. Now, there's only so many exits outside of this warehouse. FaZe is aware of it. They've had all the time in the world to set up and barricade the entrances that Damwon Kia has into this Phase 9 circle. Sungjang, though, gonna push up around the hill. FaZe, meanwhile, is sweeping out to the eastern side, and they're gonna control this entire ridge line. It's a 3v3 to finish this one, Matt. It's anybody's game.
Playing the hillside, Uba back behind this, trying to get a little bit more vision. Changchang lines up, but somehow AT manages to survive. Fuzzface providing a little bit of cover. Connection shots on both sides. Now Fuzzface, the last one for his squad. Looking back into Kia's positioning. Multiple members for Kia already down as well. Indigo looking through this one, trying to spot it out. Quick shots going in. Indigo trying to use the cover. The down teammates in between them. Knows exactly where Fuzzface is. It's back and forth between them, but it's going to be Kia picking up an 8-kill victory.
Well, it had been a lot of games for Damwon Kia. They had the longest streak in this tournament without a chicken dinner, and they finally are able to come through. I mean, it's better late than never. It's going to be enough to get them out of that bottom spot for sure. You get a thumbs up there from Under. Oh boy, Matt, this was for me. I was on pins and needles throughout this game. It looked like this might be the end of the tournament life for Damwon Kia. They might have gone out with a fizzle, but instead they're coming through with a bang.
Took 73 games, I believe, if my math is correct. Well, technically 73 losses until they got to their 74th, depending on how you look at it. But finally, walking away with a chicken dinner, bringing a little bit of pride back to him, respect on the name. You can see Fuzzface not necessarily pleased with that Indigo he won, but it was so close. And really, FaZe should be happy with their performance inside there. They're in second place, I believe, right now. I didn't see if they managed to top it up, switch in the leaderboard, so don't quote me on that one. But a big component for that was Fuzzface and how ridiculously well he played so many of those fights.
It was a great Miramar for Fuzzface and for FaZe Clan. I really making great rotations, great decisions. I really like top to bottom what I saw from them on that map.
Well, we're going to go ahead and throw it back over to the analyst desk to run through all of the craziness inside that round. Boro, take it away.
Let the world be put on notice. Nobody keeps Damwon Kia out of the winner's circle 74 times in a row. This one will be their greatest victory yet. A very hard-fought win, to be sure. And you know what? A lot of that had to do with just random PUBG butterfly effect kind of stuff there, Cameron.
Yeah, so the main point that I wanted to take away from this game is that Kia actually ended up winning that game before the end game. It was the fact that Divine gave them the opportunity to take that warehouse. The reason why, or rather the barn, the reason why Divine only had 1 player in the barn, 3 on the buildings just below, is because of the wide open wall. It's essentially a shooting gallery inside, and Kia didn't have a lot of room to maneuver inside the building. However, with only 1 person actually inside, the angle of approach that Kia had, the other 3 weren't really able to assist. So once they dispatched that initial player, they could just chill outside and sort of play around once they did, wait for that opening knock that they had, and it's just those first initial steps. The only real way for them to just throw themselves at Divine would be literally throwing themselves at Divine. So Kia played that very, very well, and even though we've been going on them of not playing up to their standards, even in these bad games that they've had, this bad tournament, you have to say, they've still shown that they had the mechanical ability to fight. It's just the macro rotations, decision-making that has been lacking for them, and they've been able to finally use that mechanical prowess to their advantage and get their win here.
2 great team fights to close that one out. In the end, it came down to a 1v1 by, you gotta say, a player that's really been stepping up for FaZe Clan there, Clover.
I mean, we saw Fuzzface for kills and damage, joined by Uber there and damage. And I mean, I want to sing his praise again. I know I've kind of been doing it this weekend, but I think it's because through this series, we've talked a lot about the fact that Fuzzface hasn't really been performing at the level that we know he's capable of. And this week has been a huge change for that. I just want to really quickly touch 23 kills thus far this weekend. He is leading by more than 11. I think Roth is the next closest. Fuzz has more kills than the rest of his team combined. And we've still got 2 more matches left.
Short hair Fuzz, clearly OP. Well, we are going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will be setting you up for the final 2 games of today, where we shift over to Erangel and we see who comes in first, but more importantly, who is going to find their tournament life ended here today. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Tell me the gamble, I wanna shot. Climbing and climbing, a humble, yeah. I'm in my squad, feeling like I know I'm the greatest, I crumble, yeah. Made it from the bottom to the top, I did it, yeah. Got these other players, never fighting, breathing for air. Aim it and lock it. Shoot. The winner takes it all. Taking it off. No one breaking in his mind, what? Are you ready? Yeah. Welcome to the battle, ready, set, fight. Welcome to the battle, ready, set, fight. Aim it and lock it. Shoot. The winner takes it all. Taking it off. Shoot. Aim it and lock it. You know that nobody like me, cause I'm faster and I'm stronger. You can have me, let me guarantee. Cause the winner takes it all. You ready?
2 games down, 2 more to go, and we get to find out where everybody finds themselves on this leaderboard. How many opportunities are they going to get to play during these weekly finals to try to find their way to the grand finals, the final finals? How many opportunities will you get? Damwon Kia coming in with a huge timely win for themselves here, but it is not over yet. They would love to get more points, give themselves more opportunities to get that win next week. Now that we are moving over to Erangel, Clover, who do you have your eyes on?
I mean, we talk about teams that have had opportunities to win and not quite get there, whether through this week or this weekend. And FaZe, once again, is still at the top of my mind right now. And I think that this particular map is one that we've seen them have a lot of success on. So I'm repping FaZe. Cameron,
now that Damwon has found their victory, we now have a new bottom of the leaderboard team, and that is going to be K7, and GEX is just right above them. Are you seeing these teams maybe making a run here late on Erangel to try to get their way into the into a little bit of a better spot? Oh my God, that was easy for me to say.
I think of the bottom teams, the one that I have the most faith in would have to be ENCE. K7, they've had a couple of good games this event, but they're few and far between. Gex, same thing about them, as well as attack all around. ENCE have had some really good performances, especially to my memory earlier on in this competition. It just really hasn't felt like they've been the same team this weekend for whatever reason. And sure, you can blame the chaotic Miramar circles for that. Their more passive play style doesn't thrive in the environment that the desert map has been giving us, at least today, but they've had more than just the 2 maps today to blame for their position in 14th place.
It's been tough sledding for sure, and it is very stacked down there towards the bottom. Now, keeping in mind for any of you new viewers, the games that we are playing right now are going to determine the order in which victors get replaced in our upcoming weekly tournament. So after game 1, whoever wins that one will move on to the weekly finals, and they will be replaced by currently Zenith, who is in first place. However, that does mean the team that finishes in 16th place will get to play 0 games, and for all intents and purposes, their tournament is over. So nobody wants to end up in that 16th place position. Right now, we've got 2 games left on Erangel, and we've seen some of these squads that have had better performances on Erangel than they've had on Miramar. Which teams are really kind of sticking out to you, Clover, as to who has maybe a little bit better luck here on the fields of green?
I mean, 4AM is definitely a team we haven't seen as much of. And, you know, once again, FaZe, right? That Milta position they like to play from, I think it's one that really awards them. But normally I would also say Zenith. However, Zenith has really been banking on Miramar. So I think that some of the teams that have kind of had slow starts because we've been starting on Miramar kind of get the chance to make a comeback here. Additionally, I know he's kind of sounded a little bit like broken record, but maybe this will be a better opportunity for Shoot to Kill to find easier rotations, mow even more kills, and now maybe potentially make it into the late game.
Now you got a chance to talk a little bit about ENCE there, Cam. Is there anybody else on that bottom half of the leaderboard that's so stacked together, so close, that you are looking at to maybe have a big performance here on Erangel? Or do you think it's just going to be more of the same that we've been seeing at the top, just feasting and harvesting on all those points?
I mean, they're barely in the bottom half, but I'm going to echo Clover here and say STK. I think that their performances on Erangel over the past couple of months before PGI.S were were better for them than Miramar. They definitely woke up on Erangel last game of the day yesterday. First two Miramars were not explosive blowout games, but they were grindy point games that STK really like to lean into. So I hope that they can continue this climb that they've been putting on so far today.
Well, as we said, 2 games left. Miramar is over and done with. FaZe Clan has been having a heck of a day for themselves so far. Zenith still holding down that top position. Will it be the same, or will we see some of these bottom teams find a little bit more life now that we've switched over to the green fields of Erangel? Let's throw it over to Matchroom and Paper Thin, who will take us through game number 3.
Thank you, Poro. All right, let's go ahead and break this down for you guys. I saw some of you inside of chat were a little bit confused on what's going on. All right, so we're in the bottom 16 right now. The reason why the bottom 16 is absolutely pivotal, you have to understand how the survival rounds work. Survival rounds are all about getting first. You have to win the round, and if you do so, you secure yourself a position in the weekly finals and you move out of the survival series. A new team will then take their place. That positioning is based off of the bottom 16 performances. Weekly finals already has a top 16 in there, so the first round will have those 16. Then, whenever one wins, whoever's in first in the bottom 16 steps in and then now has 15 rounds to have a chance to make it to the weekly finals. Then next round goes through 14 rounds, so and so forth, all the way through. Whoever is in bottom and is in 16th place is the only team that does not get a chance. But that means that if you're the 15th team, as far as the bottom 16 rankings go, you only get one shot to get that chicken dinner. So with this, that's why these rounds are so pivotal, because we see a massive escalation of money. And don't forget, we still have the weekly finals for this week that are going to be coming up after this as well. So as we see all this breaking through, we're seeing a huge escalation of money and positioning. And oh, that's not a good way to win that money right there, TSG. And it's going to be Svit going to go ahead and get some run over. Doesn't kill him with the run over there. Going to have to do a second approach onto it. There we go. Finally gets it in the end, and Paper Thin, while I'm giving us a breakdown, look at that. It's a milli-circle.
Military circle. So STK fans rejoice. They have dropped in the military base this round. No oath in this lobby, so it's open for them. And it is the only other team that's even heading in that direction right now is Damwon. You can see Under's going to make the long drop to land in the compound there on the northern coast of the island. Sungjong, in fact, already further ahead at the crossroads on the western side. So this is going to be a wild one. Not a lot of teams on the island or even close to it, to be frank. TSG is pushing across the bridge here relatively shortly as well. You can see there, yep, Shandyan going to be coming through with his teammate, as they did lose the one early. But the good news is they have priority on this military island circle. And yeah, so you did a great job explaining that, Matt. This is the bottom 16. So everybody's just getting themselves in position for the weekly qualifiers for next week. And this is the last bottom 16, 2 more games, and that's it. One team, Matt, is going to be out of this tournament at the end of the next 2 games. And right now, K7 sitting in that spot with 20 points, but I mean, it's only 10 points up to 9th place. It is going to be wild. Every point matters in these next 2 games so much.
Especially at the bottom of the leaderboard. It is so compacted right now. Just 1 point, 1 kill separating whoever's going to be in that 16th position. So opportunity still abounds for so many of these teams. FaZe Clan having themselves a phenomenal last round. Now 2 points away from catching up to Zenith. Do want to point out, though, Zenith has been very feast or famine so far. They've been regularly getting second places, haven't been able to get themselves a chicken dinner in the bottom 16 so far. But whenever they don't get that second place, they're in like 15th or 14th, I believe. I don't remember exactly where they went outside that last round, but we're seeing them regularly hold down that second place. Just always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Maybe they'll be able to pick one up inside this round. Zenith, FaZe Clan, both starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, but again, highly important to try to go ahead and get those strong positions. And oh, I know everybody's going to be excited about this one. What's going on, AAA? What are you guys doing?
Here comes the ferry. It is available. We've seen some other teams use it already in this tournament, and now it's going to be Svit taking a ride. This ferry is free. You don't even have to pay a ticket or a toll to use it. So Svit going to be going through here. He might jump out of the boat and get with the rest of his teams. I think AAA just hedging their bet just in case there's somebody guarding the coast there, and there is nobody. So yep, Svit going to jump on out and swim on over to gather with the rest of his team. Nice little cheeky use of the boat. like what AAA is thinking there. Canaxi has brought a boat over for Buriram to the Milta Power Peninsula, and that's a nice pickup for them. That's going to allow them to get over there quickly. FaZe is already set up inside of Novo. TSG at the eastern crossroads. 4 a.m. now on the move with Detonation Gaming White hanging out next to them on the Milta area. So both of these teams kind of thinking about making their way. There is a crate coming down here by outside of Team Liquid. Team Liquid drove past Damwon Kia. There didn't seem to be too much problem with that. And yep, here comes Buriram. They're going to start making their way down the cliff to get in the boat, and they just might drive that one off. Yep, no problem. Just get out and swim over to it.
I do like the fact that I think it was Connex that stopped his vehicle up at the top. That was good communication saying, hey, don't drop the vehicle off from this specific spot, otherwise you could hit the boat. We are at least seeing a favorable position for a lot of these teams that moved early, and whenever we've been seeing military-based circles, like for the past week or so, it's been very split and been being a gamble for a lot of these teams. This time, at least, you just lean military base. You come down here, get a position early, you hope that you can get a nice defensible spot, the circle kind of pops your direction, because, whenever you're on military base, it tends to go either east or west, depending on the nature of the beast and what we're looking at. So that's why we're seeing a lot of these teams really lean in along those points, making the run across the bridges, going in for spots. Also, I know we talked about this a little bit during the survival rounds. You're not going to see a lot of bridge camping specifically right now, just due to how strong the drive-by meta is. It makes it a lot harder to really hold up defensive positions, as there's not a ton of cover from this. So if somebody comes rolling through, you take a couple of shots at them, next thing you know, you've got a caravan of bullets just being dropped on your head, and suddenly, instead of being the person that's getting the kills, you're getting dropped in. Now, Connex had good awareness on this one, and by Fuzzface's vehicle.
Oh no!
Got to hit the brakes. But I mean, let's be real. He's got people that can come pick him up, and we're going to see them rotate anyway, so I don't think that's the worst thing.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. Let's see if they're going to try to make this hail of bullets happen. FaZe Clan is lining up for it, but Buriram, they're nuts. They're really good, and they're trying to put some shots in. You got to be real careful in that boat not to accidentally shoot your teammates, but God, I mean, Buriram's, again, so gifted. I know. They're just incredible. They're so good at shooting. Now they're going to have to try to come up this rock ledge, and they got to be quick about it, because if FaZe wants to, they can really barricade this.
And that looks like FaZe's goal right now. They're going to go ahead and move into a gatekeeping spot for them. TSM making the cross through the bridge. Gustav looking like he might be the aggressor towards Buriram's position. Buriram does have a couple little dips that they can play, and that might buy them a little bit of time, but it looks like FaZe Clan realizing, this is kind of like, well, it's great to get the kill points and maybe do some damage to Buriram, who might be chasing us. They don't know exactly who is in this position, as there are no knocks between the two. So instead, retreat it away, maybe opt into playing for a better position for yourself rather than just going for the kill points at this stage. And I like that read. I think that's the smart heads-up play to make for FaZe.
Yeah, they just weren't able to get into position quick enough. There is the potential there that you can catch Buriram as they cross from the rocks over to the compound. In fact, there's going to be even a vehicle left for them there, potentially. Are the tires still good? Are all the tires good on this vehicle? Oh my, that's a gift. That's an absolute gift for Buriram.
So at least get something out of it. And you can see that they were running through to scope it out, so that way they can make sure to mark it and come back to it as needed. We often see that Buriram does like to make some foot pushes here or there. They'll send it. They'll hop in vehicles and send it just like anybody else, but they tend to lean into their firepower just on foot a lot of the times. 4 a.m. circling around, making sure nobody's doing anything crazy around here. And it looks like they decided to opt playing along the more northern sections of Military Base Island. Going to be coming up right back behind them is going to be Zenith. No real big rush coming through, as it's almost like every team is taking their turn, just driving across the bridge and saying, okay, we don't want to deal with the drive-by meta. You go, and it's just like a little queue that's lined up, and the next team will go. Following up back behind Zenith, almost perfect distance. We're going to have Divine coming in, then Gex, then K7. On the western bridge, it looks like maybe Furia and Ince might approach the bridge at the same time. 4 a.m. still just kind of running around, seeing what's going on, trying to get a little bit more information. There's a slight benefit to rolling through these hillsides and having people take shots as you can mark that and try to figure out for future potential rotations where teams can be. So I think that's why we're seeing some of these teams be a little bit more, I guess, loose with their driving, not leaning into the safer approaches.
Yeah, you have to be super careful about it now. It's almost like, if you get close to each other, it kind of becomes, like old naval combat where you're trying to, broadside each other and do these other things. Now, Furia is kind of keeping Ents at bay. I'm not sure that there's necessarily going to be a fight, but kind of all depends on what those teams want to do. And here, yeah, Buriram on foot. They're going to watch Zenith cross. Noadra is going to go for the spray, get quite a bit of damage, and Shinboy's going to get off and knock himself as he gets off that vehicle, and they're spinning out. Kanaxi going to try to finish another. He's going to land it onto Punich here. Zenith in a world of hurt. Kickstart trying to do something. He's taking a bunch of damage. Roth knows that Kanaxi's weak, and he's going to get the knock there. Good adjustment here by Zenith to at least get Kanaxi isolated.
Well, he managed to get at least a little bit of vengeance. 2 members down on one side, 1 on Buriram's side. So Zenith going to continue on their merry way. And now it's just a matter of where the circle is going to send us. We did see Inns and Fury get a little bit of separation away from each other, so everybody just running across the bridge perfectly fine. Due up center in military base. That means that not a lot of teams are going to have to really rotate. Just our teams that are still not yet on military base island being the only key components. Maybe TSM going to have to move. Well, definitely TSM going to have to move, as well as a couple of members for Team Liquid.
Yeah, Liquid's heading down towards the crashed airplanes, or well, they're not. Are they crashed? I'm not sure if they're just airplane parts. The airplane graveyard, one way or another. Ents has gotten through ahead of Furia, so they're going to find the car graveyard. Damwon Kia is pushing forward. I think a lot of teams are going to be kind of eyeing the bunkers, the shelters to the east of the military base. That's where the circle feels like it wants to end up, but you never know. There's still a lot of circle to go, so it could kind of find itself just about anywhere. Team Liquid's going to take some of these new craters that found their way onto the map for Airgel 2.0, and there's Damwon Kia kind of driving around in the middle of the military base, and there are those bunkers I was talking about. LG Divine is going to drive around Zenith, who's got the furthest east one. SDK has part of one and a 2-2 split for themselves. LG Divine might kind of find themselves in the middle of them. Kickstarts inside of here. They're just going to drive at him. I don't know about that. JN, you're going to pay the price.
A little bit more vengeance coming back. Turtle rolls through, goes, hey, I have a similar idea. Plan also fails. Turtle now down, and it's going to be about how June opts into playing this one right at the front entrance to the bunker itself. You can see they're hopping inside the vehicles, doing a little bit bait and switch around, and there's a ton of them in there. It's going to be good shots connecting onto Roth, and now there is just one. Divine trying to figure out how they play damage control onto this. And luckily, nobody has any vision or playing any of the other bunkers just quite yet. Roth, rest of the crew realizing the fact that they have the numbers advantage, steps back over, runs into it. June gets down on 1. Roth manages to pick it up. But there we go. Now Zenith down to just 1, and this could be an open opportunity for the other teams that are chasing them on the leaderboard.
Yeah, that's disarray for LG Divine. The comms are just not good there. You can't push into that 1-by-1 like that and lose 2 members for nothing. On 2 members that are inside of that shelter. They're completely barricaded inside of there. There's no way in or out except that door, that front entrance of that shelter. There's no reason to do that. It's just that sloppy play from LG Divine, and they pay the price. It's a good double push out. It's unfortunate for Zenith. They lose kickstart at the end of it, but frankly, Zenith comes out of that much richer than they should have been.
That was you got to give it to Zenith. They're finding a way to somehow scrap together kill points in very desperate situations. Iroh in a little bit of trouble as it's going to be a long-range shots coming out from God V. Connect onto him, get the flush. Everything's kind of calmed down. There's not a lot of teams stacked up next to each other. TSM's in a little bit of a precarious spot as they are all separated out around military. They've got a lot of teams in between them, so it's going to be very difficult for them to regroup at this stage. K7 just out here nomming on Blue Zone. They've just been chilling out here for quite a while, so it's going to be a lot of meds and stims burned through. Do find a boat, so they're going to be able to rotate down, but remember the fact that there's just a little bit of the coastline that's inside the safe zone, so they're immediately going to have to move when they do so. This is a lot of utility being burnt, and K7, what else do you guys have? I'm just like looking through their med situation. That's got a cost to it. Sure, they get some safety. They're going to be able to get probably into the safe zone fine. Well, I say that. Now Gex knows exactly what's going on, and they are opting into kind of camping this position. If K7 opts to play along through here, that could be extremely bad for K7.
Honestly, I don't see any reason for Malier not to take these shots. He's got him out in the blue. He could maybe catch one. Frankly, there's no reason to not reveal your position, particularly with the circle going south like it has. Now another team trying to push in. This time it's Team
Wookie!
Liquid getting dumpstered by Wookie. Wookie gonna throw another grenade out front. It's just Jeems left alive on the outside of this. Mexi Ibiza Clib down and almost out. My word, there it is. That's the finish. Wookie is going to do it. Huge play there by Wookie Bookie.
While TSM is quite separated, they can provide a little bit of cover for each other. Kia looks to be the new contender approaching him through here. Under rolling right up, and looks like they might stop to play the top side of this, but Kia's kind of separating out and going different directions right now. Kale playing back behind this one. Looks like he might turn around, just maybe stop at that rock right there and get a little bit of an idea on what's going on. Do note, Shoot to Kill is playing a couple of bunkers, I guess 2 bunkers away from where we saw Zenith a little while ago, and should have a little bit of vision on what's going on around Wookie Bookie's position. TSG is to the west of Shoot to Kill as well, so that's going to be a lot of independent firefights depending on how they break through. K7, they have found somewhere that is not blue zone and are trying to get a little bit more information, as Ince is going to be rotating right next to him. Do K7 opt into leaning into these shots, nothing coming out just yet, and they're just going to let Ince carry on their merry way, not even going to take a shot in the tail end of it, and I think that's just due to a lack of information. They're afraid to take shots because they're afraid of a third party, as they are quite open, and we also have been seeing how strong the drive-by medic can be.
Yeah, absolutely, you're correct. They just have no idea what's going on the island right now. This is the last team to get through, so they have to be extremely cautious and careful. So for them to not take the shots there, I know it might feel like they have a decent opportunity to maybe get squeaky at the end, but really it's extremely dangerous. On the other hand, Mao Ye from GX really should have been taking shots at that boat, seeing if he could catch. I mean, one bullet could get a knock into K7 and make them a 3-man instead of a 4-man because of how the phase 2 or 3 blue, whatever it was at the time, makes it much more difficult to heal, especially if you hit the driver or something. That would be best case scenario, and then you're really making it difficult for K7. But regardless, K7 has found their way on. Wookie Bookie continues to hang out inside of that shelter by himself. The rest of TSM is actually over, not in ATC, but in the factory to the north of it. So it's a bit of a big spread for TSM. And well, let's see, they've got 4 up. They're coming in late. That's not too surprising for them. This is kind of their natural home territory, coming in from the north.
It should be noted that right now K7, Gex, and Ince are 3 teams that are at the bottom, are all the ones that are right along the blue zone and having to roll in right now, and even in a desperate situation inside the circle. Ince somehow manages to roll right by Gex and 4 a.m. They're going to continue to send it up a little bit closer towards FaZe positioning, and FaZe should be getting vision on this any moment. There we go. FaZe starting to line up a couple of shots, not getting the knock onto anybody, but you can see the high ground advantage. And also do note that we have Detonation Gaming White that could maybe look down through there. Sees might be able to see himself something pretty nice. So with the circle now positioning, Ints are going to be rewarded for a little bit more of an aggressive run through the middle of everything, as we are going to be seeing a Eastern shift, all things considered, for Angry Men. Looking back towards K7, who finally did manage to make it in safe zone, but congratulations, guys. Here's your reward. You're just going to have a ton of bullets to the face.
Yeah, it's the circle just kept shifting away for them, heading towards the south, so it becomes more and more difficult as that happens. And when you get to this shark fin that is created where 4 a.m. is, there's not a lot of cover inside of it outside of the trees. And just getting into the circle, 4 a.m. is set up in such a manner that anybody coming from that direction without vehicles is going to be in a crossfire and potentially shredded, like you're seeing with K7. Miraku tries to drive up to the silo, and that's not going to happen. Luke 12 and Shoot to Kill. Going to see to that. Furia up in the forest. Nobody from Damwon Kia ended up going up there. Damwon Kia, opting to stay below the road, too afraid, and I think rightly so, that there could be a team or two that decides to roll in through that northern forest. AAA, still all 4 alive this time, so able to escape some of those early round oopsies and find some of this little pond for themselves.
Yeah, it's getting kind of clustered. We can see to the east a lot of these teams now stacked up along Radio Tower Hillside, the cliffs specifically. Then we've got the hill that it's kind of like the peninsula around the road that leads into military base itself, where several teams are also stacked up, and then just a whole bunch of bunkers positions. Buriram and Furia to the south are going to be the ones that are kind of looking for new positions. As you can see, Buriram going to be rotating along a vector where we can see Furia is going to take a couple of shots at them, but I don't know. Whatever you shoot at Buriram, you never know what's going to happen. They might continue to go on their merry way, or they might end up stopping and hopping on top of their vehicles, trying to spot you out and seeing if they want to go for the kills on you. They're such a, I guess, aggressive team whenever they feel like they can get the play. Whenever they find the aggressive moments, they instantly spin on it. And I feel like that's what makes them so deadly. Their commitment is always 100%. It's, we're going to rotate. If we lose one, too bad, so sad. Somebody takes a shot at them, you can tell whoever says it, it's like, we're going to spin on this. And boy, they spin on it. So whenever you have teams like this that are over towards the edge of the zone, that means it's going to be more problematic for these late coming rotating teams.
No, you're precisely correct, Matt. That is a great assessment of Buriram. When they commit, they typically fully commit. Sometimes they do find themselves in wide splits early on, where maybe they lose somebody and they do back off of the fights. But generally, once they pick a fight, they want to try to see it out as much as they can. As we do, yep, we're heading right towards these bunkers. That's kind of where the circle felt like it was going early on, and that is indeed where it is going to make its way to for Damwon Kia. This gets a little bit interesting. They are outside of it with Wookie Bookie underneath them. They're probably very well aware of that, watching the kill feed, seeing what happened to Team Liquid earlier. And you've got AAA looming, Fury up on the hill. So you can see they made a concave with their vehicles, trying to give themselves some protection, but it's not going to be enough to fully protect them, particularly from Furia when they come up over the top. So Damwon Kia, this one's going to get pretty spicy pretty quick.
There's going to be a temptation to send it for a lot of these teams, and Roth, while he is center, the last one up for Zenith, he is all by his lonesome, and a couple of these teams might opt into making a play for his bunkered position just to see if maybe they can get a little bit more position points out of it. The risk is definitely worth the reward, as we're starting to see more teams just go, okay, it's time. Buriram now starting to commit to this run down the hillside, and it looks like they might be opting in towards the bunkers. Question comes into play is, which one are they going to stop at? We've got a couple of solos, we've got a couple of teams. It's almost like Russian roulette as you roll through this. Under does go down from some shots from Jayers. So good positioning, and looks like they're going to opt into playing where Roth is at. Numbers advantage comes through, grenade hits onto one of them, peek between them. Godmeow gets spotted out, and it is a quick exchange between the two. Somehow Nordra manages to live through this one's going to come through and try to see if he can get the reses for his teammates. Meanwhile, long-range grenades starting to bounce their way through onto Kia's positioning, and it's going to be AAA trying to make a play for it, but they are getting tattered as they make this approach.
Yeah, only Jayers left alive, and Purdy Curdy gonna put him down. AAA's round goes down in flames. Not too much going on for them. One kill, so they still find themselves in danger of being one of those teams, or being the team that could find that 16th place, that maybe K7, GX, and ENCE have some points in the board in the next couple rounds. We'll see. K7 went out early, and that's a disaster for them. Faye's going to watch Furia's rotation down the hill. Furia never really got involved with Damwon Kia, so Damwon Kia, in my opinion, getting a bit of relief there. A little bit lucky, as that could have gone sideways for them had it been AAA and Furia that were pushing onto them. Instead, Furia put some hurt into AAA, and now it's Buzzface. He's been fantastic on Miramar, been landing some pretty good shots, trying to get it done with that mini. And Gustav has two members of Furia up at the guard post in front of him. Gonna be proning with that M4, waiting, and now ENCE is trying to third party this, but then keep in mind there is Detonation Gaming White behind there as well.
This is kind of messy. You can see Furia is just in the please leave us alone shack right now. The grenade's going to roll just a little bit by them. They do have their vehicle that's providing a little bit more cover for them. They got to be a little careful as it explodes. They're kind of trapped in this position for now, but I mean, the question comes into play, like, if you have a Molotov, you can just kind of walk into this and drop it right on top of them, and it turns into an oven real quick. The hesitation most likely comes out for Gustav as if he reveals himself and steps around that wall, he could see Buriram taking some shots at him, maybe even shoot to kill. TSG is playing along the same bunker that shoot to kill is playing as well. North getting a little bit more messy as Gex and 4AM starting to get lineups on him. You can see Triumphant's on Gaming realizing the fact that they need to start making some aggressive plays. Circle's not going to favor them. So instead, peeking around, trying to see if maybe they can make a play around the bunker. And this is such a dangerous angle to peek. Once you step around, you have no idea how many people can be taking shots. I love the heads-up play. Throw the Molotovs into that position, make it even riskier for anybody to go for any peek around that corner.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for SDK. All four inside here. Great grenade, though. Catches a bunch of TSG. And now there is indeed GEX getting finished off by 4 Angry Men. 9 kills for them. They are farming that northern side of the circle, as they are wont to do. They're incredibly talented. Detonation Gaming White went down to ENCE, so they made the push out of the compound. It did not go well. They fall apart in this one. Under going to be the one to try to pick up these mollies like you were just talking about, Matt. Fantastic recognition. And there you go. Furia is going to go out in 8th place.
And just cooked. Well done right there. So with this, now we're starting to see the shoot to kill and Triumphant's on Gaming fight break out. SDK leaving the bunker, using the smoke to reposition around it. Meanwhile, In's trying to roll back into it, but yet again, Fuzzface, he has just been so dominant today and such a core component for everything that FaZe has been bringing. In's on the other side, now left with just Diggory, looking back into a ton of FaZe players. A couple of shots are going to connect onto Fuzzface, but that's going to be very limited options for In's to really make anything work. You can see now just on the hunt for kill points, seeing maybe they can get some knocks, get something out of this positioning. Do note the fact that we're starting to see more condensed down. Buriram in a favorable position with it, and Triumphant Song Gaming still caught up in this fight with Shoot to Kill as they're trying to get out of position, but it's going to be Kale at range that lines up into Pentalol.
Yeah, it's the southern edge of the fence line for Damwon Kia to work with. That's a pretty nice spot to be in right now. Nobody behind them. As long as they can keep FaZe at bay on their eastern side, they have pretty good ability to kind of peek up and over that fence line and take some shots. AT still watching poor Diggory. Diggory has just not a lot that he can do. Indeed, it's going to be Godvi who takes him down from 4 Angry Men. So there you go. Ends having a decent game there. 7th place finish. Under did get knocked, so on the spot is Sungjong to pick him back up, but Helmet's starting to become a problem for Damwon Kia. So I've seen a couple of their members without them. So going forward, that makes things really, really difficult. Of course, these players also good at finding their headshots, and any bullet that catches your head without a helmet makes a quick work of you.
Triumphant Song Gaming in a lot of trouble. 4 Angry Men now getting vision back into FaZe right now. 11 kills. These guys have been dominant in the north, really just taking control of the entirety of the hillside. Now having to contest against a team that is taking control of that eastern hillside. That's going to be Fuzzface going down. Molotov's going to connect with him. Good toss coming out from 4AM, and look at the control that 4AM have towards the north. Circle even pops back to give them a little bit more favor. Kia in a lot of trouble. FaZe in a lot of trouble. Going to have to rotate through a very desperate situation.
Yeah, I mean, for Damwon Kia, they've got Buriram and 4AM that have angles to the south on top of them, so you can see they're getting torn apart. FaZe getting involved as well. Indigo's going to get taken down here. They are now in a shooting gallery with not a lot of cover except for the fence line to work with, and Kale down for Damwon Kia. They have 2 left, I think. I think it's just Sungjong and Under who have at least gotten outside of that guard post, and they are army crawling their way down the fence line. Sungjong is going to be exposed for just a second. It's okay, no problem. Nobody saw it. That's fine. It's fair play here. Uba behind the trees though is going to be watching this, so it's going to be up to that vehicle. They're going to have to outdo a FaZe along the fence line.
Meanwhile, 4AM trying to out grenade Shoot to Kill, still playing around this bunker. Shoot to Kill really in a dire situation right now. They can opt to go back inside this bunker, but there's not a lot of options if they lean into doing this. 4 Angry Men just asserting so much control into everything that's happening. You can see FaZe realizing the fact that their options are getting more and more limited, trying to line up against this defensive wall and use it for as long as humanly possible. Kia still crawling their way, maybe trying to contest that point. Well, I mean, we did see Under pop up for a second. There you go. Starting to run forward, but that means that they are going to get spotted out by FaZe, and it's kind of a fight for the bunkers while it's a fight for the wall. Positioning being king for 4AM for the bunkers, and FaZe having control of the wall right now. Can they spot out anything? Can Kia line up the shots, maybe get the knock to make the push? They're getting some damage out, but this blue zone's going to hit hard. That's already 1 down for Kia. Second one, not along for this world either. Under does manage to go down, so that drops us into our top 4. I mean, if you live by the crawl, you got to die by the crawl. But Alo lines up some shots onto God V, and the positioning now starting to be a detriment for 4 Angry Men.
Well, 4AM, I thought maybe they were going to win this one with quite a few kills in the bag, but SDK coming around this western flank, doing a good job kind of overloading it, and that caught 4AM in a bad position where they aren't really able to cover each other as well as they'd probably like. Now, they are going for the res there on their key member of Godvi, the in-game leader. They're going to pick him up, so Forever and him, the 2 mainstays, but now Forever is going to get taken down and quickly finished by Alo. Good work here by SDK, being very patient. I say that, crazy. It's going to knock pretty curdy, but there is a ridge line there. Should be resable, I think, for SDK, unless 4AM gets real aggressive on this.
But this is huge for FaZe Clan. They found an opportunity. They managed to start trying to send a couple over. As I say that, it's going to be Gustav walking right into the trap that Lou has set. God V instead opting to lean around the low positioning. Spots out. Doesn't matter. Good spin back over coming up from Luke 12. They do lose pretty curdy in that exchange, but 4AM now getting harassed from multiple angles. Crazy leaned up against the wall towards the north of it. Maybe can spot something out. He's got a couple of defenses to work with. Lou, meanwhile, finding himself in a pretty desperate spot as now AT is going to start aggressing into the smoke, seeing if maybe he can spot them out. Lou just trying to cling to life. Keep in mind, Buriram very quiet down in the lower section of this bunker, just waiting, hearing the firefights, realizing the fact that the opportunity to come out could be any moment now. Luke 12 still looking back into Crazy's positioning. A little bit of an exchange going on between them, but Crazy not really wanting to commit to anything, just thinking maybe he can get a couple of peeks on information. Luke 12 punishing every single time, but this is really negating any movement coming out from Shoot to Kill. Buriram getting a little bit more information and throwing Hail Mary grenades up on top of their bunker just to see if they connect.
Yeah, I think if I'm Buriram, I'm waiting for a knock either on FaZe or Xiaolu to come out, and then I'm going to make my move around the eastern side of the bunker, try to sweep through there. I think that's their best play, to be frank. We'll see if that's what they go for. It's just great patience. Buriram might find themselves a second win of the day with their patience, doing what LG Divine could not do. There's Uba getting the knock, or excuse me, AC got the knock. Uba getting some shots in there as well. Luke 12 keeping Crazy pinned behind here. No throwables. See, he really wanted to think about a good headshot coming through with the barrel for Luke 12. Now that really opens a lot of space because 4AM is down. Buriram, it's time to start thinking about what push out they're going to make. They have a lot of options available.
Yeah, the question comes into play is how much information have they been able to gather? All the fighting has been to the north of their position. They know that somebody's on their bunker, but they have no clue where. And instead, they're just using all of the utility from everybody that crashed into this position. Remember, there's the defensive line that we saw Zenith set up earlier, then we saw the positioning coming in for team upon team rolling into that point. So they've got a lot of utility to work with right now. So they're just kind of walking into every single crate and seeing if maybe they can get something lucky out of it. With this, though, you can see that FaZe has leaned into a little bit more defensive line. Finally, having 4AM go down has unlocked shoot to kills positioning, and they're starting to rotate through. Buriram starting to get more awareness on what's happening. Oddly enough, Buriram opting to take this high ground positioning is revealing them to two different teams. Luke 12 seeing the potential of an opportunity arising while they're getting a little bit lined up into FaZe could be a huge spoiler as now shoot to kills lining up to third party into whatever this fight breaks down into.
Yeah, it's really smart movement here by Shoot to Kill to take control of the center of the circle right now. Let these two teams fight, although I say that, God Meow is nuts. He takes down Alo onto the side, so now it's just Luke 12. 8Z trying to outduel Noadra over the top. Noadra's head poking through, Blues coming in, and great shooting again by God Meow. Gonna take Uba down and out. Just 8Z and Luke 12 versus Buriram right now. 8Z backing up into the smoke, throwing some more out, trying to cover his path, but God Meow is on the hunt. He knows he has 8Z in a bad spot. 8Z goes back to try to heal, and God Meow says, no, sir. It's going to be Luke 12 versus Buriram.
Just chases him down. Luke 12 gets a shot onto it and gets a flush on the other side. This is a 2v1 situation. Positioning showing up for Buriram as it's just a dance around the top side of this bunker. It's going to be about how vision comes into play. You can see trying to lean into the rocks. Luke 12 knows where the approach is going to be coming from. Takes a couple of shots onto one, but that's going to reveal his position. Nordra trying to play around the outside of this. Luke 12 instead opting to reposition down around through this, seeing if maybe he can get a flank onto it. Nordra lined up into it, and a good shot's coming out from Luke 12. Spins back onto one, lines up onto the other one, and shoot the kill. Secure themselves a victory, moving up into fourth place. A good heads-up awareness coming up from Luke 12 on how to play that last section.
Big time size of a relief coming through for the SGK boys as Luke 12. He is incredible, coming through big time with that 1v2 on the Buriram, getting the win for SDK. Very well played, top to bottom for them, racking in a lot of kills on that round as well. Buriram did their best, but this time it's going to be their turn to have the odd man situation go against them. Just really, really nicely done there by Luke. Great readjustment once he was spotted. Gets over to isolate the guy on his left, takes him down quickly with easily, and is ready for Noadra to come up over the top.
Just abandoning the position instead. He had a good angle there and could have defended it, but realized throwables could have just absolutely torn him apart. Repositions, moves down through the low ground sections, and just a beautiful reposition by Luke 12, all things considered. Now, you can see the relief on a lot of these teams' faces. That's one of the things that we kind of have to take in with what we're looking at is it's just a meat grinder of event. Every single victory, we just see some type of relief come into play for these teams. And it's just getting that secured spot knows the fact that, okay, sure, you're in the bottom 16, but now the doors are starting to come open a little bit more as we move into our next round. And our final round for the bottom 16, maybe you can secure yourself a good spot for the survival series.
Yeah, and say what you will about the format of this event, it is emotional, and that there is something to be said about that. The highs and the lows are kind of what you live for in competitive environments, whether that be, you know, esports, regular sports, whatever have you. That's kind of the name of the game. It's so intense and so emotional. I mean, personally, I know it sucks and it's hard, but you know, when the elations, when those highs come through, they're really fun to see.
Well, we're going to go ahead and toss it back to the analyst desk. We've got one more game to go, guys, so make sure you stay tuned in.
Absolutely correct, Matchroom. One more game to go, but let's talk about this one. STK on the shoulders of Luke 12 and a big 1v3 to get the win. That is going to hop them up 5 spots, give them 5 more games to try to play this weekend to get that win. 4 a.m. also finding themselves humping up 5 spots as well. And now FaZe Clan in first place overall. They're going to be our first team coming through. But Clover, that game really seemed to center around a lot of play around those bunkers.
I mean, we saw about 2/3 of the lobby at some point try to make a play out of those bunkers. It worked really well in terms of scoring chances. So we can see here, look at the kills on the board there. Shoot to kill 13, Foringerman with 14, Buriram even 8. And a lot of that all came from those bunker plays, those bunker areas. Even Zenith's 5 out from a bunker there. But, you know, at the same time, as we said, we've got one more match to go, and teams really need to capitalize on a scoring chance. Getting a military game at a time like this has got to be stressful, but so many teams were creative and really pulled out for it.
As if this tournament needed any more stress added to it, Cameron. 4 a.m. though, I mean, obviously the story's got to be SDK with the big win, but 4 a.m. having a fantastic performance that game.
Really were. And yes, the end game ended, of course, at the bunkers. A lot of chaos happened around that area because it's such a difficult place to play, but that's not the only place in Military Circle. 4 a.m. really cleaned up so many of the kills on the north side, on those hills just above, and we didn't get to see a lot of that because we were so focused in on what was essentially the center of the circle throughout the mid game. But we have 4 kills for Crazy, 4 kills for Forever, 4 for God V, and then 2 for Xiao Lu. They were just mopping up, and this is the 4 a.m. that we often see of just really going off, really going ham, really getting those kill points. It's just, again, the fact that they can't do this every time is the real big issue. So there is a real possibility that while they might be in a solid place in 6 right now, they might not be able to stay there.
Those big gains there from Shoot to Kill and 4 Angry Men. As we said, FaZe Clan taking over that top spot. It's still very close there at the top, but it's even closer at the bottom. Clover, 2 Chinese Taipei teams battling it out to see who gets to stick around here for this final week and whose tournament will be over. K7, GEX, who are your eyes on in this last game?
Ooh, I mean, of all of the teams that are right down here, even, you know, if we loop in attack all around there, I would say that the most aggressive might actually be K7. It kind of stinks to see them all the way down there in 16th, but they need to look for some opportunities to get a couple kills. This will, I'm calling it now, come down to 1 point because of how close it's been through the bottom. And as we've seen, I mean, Shoot to Kill, they were near the bottom yesterday. They did not have a good performance at all, but as there's anything that we've seen is that if a team can have a good match, a good day, that's all it's going to take. And we see just, I mean, the looks right now of relief and excitement knowing that, hey, we're going to go forward next week in a spot we're comfortable with.
Going into this final game, a couple of teams, you can see the relief obviously on the face of STK there. But Cameron, there's something to be said about being the team that's got the hot hand right now. Who are your teams that are playing right now that you are really looking at as being the hot hand coming into this final week?
Because I don't know what hot hand means,
They're playing really well.
Really well? I mean, that's, oh God, that's got to be Shoot to Kill, and I think Buriram as well. Over the course of most of the games today, I think it's been Shoot to Kill and Buriram. Granted, this last game was the best game for both of those teams for today and likely this whole weekend. But it's the consistency, at least for STK and Buriram today, that's been looking really, really solid, really, really good for them, and why they've been able to climb up so successfully on the leaderboard.
Can't believe you don't know. Never heard the term hot hand. That's actually crazy to me. Detonation Gaming White came into today, Clover, in first place. They've kind of slid down the leaderboard just a little bit, but they're still holding strong in 5th. Are we looking at them as maybe cooling off a little bit, or are we still expecting them to be pretty strong going into this week?
I think we're seeing them fall back into the comfort zone of what we've expected them when it comes to the survival series and previous performances. But at the same time, I want to see them keep taking some of those scoring chances. You know, a couple 4-point games here and there. But this is, you know, this is the end. They've really got to put everything that they have forward, and I would like to see that happen again here in this last match.
Got to be worth mentioning now that they're sitting in first place. That team right there in the bottom corner of your screen, FaZe Clan, looking like a pretty hot hand, Cameron. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, how else do you think they got into the first place? They got 30 points yesterday. They have 30 points. Listen, I know you're making it as a joke. I'm going to take it seriously anyway. They have 34 points on the day already. Still one game left. So even compared to yesterday, it's a lot better of a performance. And we've already been singing Fuzzface's praises over the course of this weekend. Last weekend as well, he was playing really good. And so even if it might have taken him a little bit to really show his stardom here in Korea at PGI.S, he's there now. It is a little concerning that he has 24 kills and the rest of his team have 15 combined. That's an interesting number. That's calling out to me, but it's fine. They're in first place anyway. We can go over the details with a fine-tooth comb later.
He's got a lovely Toomey backpack ready to carry the boys across the finish line. Well, we've got a duo that's ready to take us across the finish line. Our final game of the day brought to you by Matchroom and Paper Thin. Boys, take us home.
Here we are, the end of the bottom 16 rounds. Several months of preparation has been leading into this stage for teams. They want to make sure that they secure a good position. FaZe now in that first place position, narrowly edging ahead 1 point of Zenith. But we look towards the bottom. One team will be playing their last round of competitive PUBG for PGI.S. after this is all said and done, and it is neck and neck. Gex and K7, 1 point separating them as well.
Yeah, both those teams need to get it going in this round. They need to find some way to get some points and avoid that situation where they will find themselves out of the tournament. And again, in this round, just like in every game on these bottom reseedings, every point matters so much because every game, every position you have ahead of another team is another game you get to play in that reseeding round, another chance to make it to the weekly finals. Because those top 16 teams that we're seeing later today, they get to play 16 games no matter what. For you, if you're at the top where FaZe is right now, you get 15. That's the best you get during the week, and everybody else is one less than that as you go further down. So every point matters. This circle, we had a southern plain path, but we're going kind of northish. You never know with this one. It could shift above the river, and right now, literally nobody's up there.
All right, guys. We gotta tell you, yes, the river runs right through the middle. I know, it's been happening all week, but if you're a new watcher, you gotta know. This means the fact that you gotta make a play. You gotta make a choice. Do you go to the north? Do you play for that positioning? Hope the fact that the circle leans into that positioning, or do you play to the south of the river? Hoping the fact that the circle's gonna favor into there. It becomes a little bit of a numbers gamble. You've got to look through, try to figure out how the landscape is going to lay through with all things considered. So with this, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of teams, maybe if they're kind of in a riskier spot, maybe rotate towards the north. We do have a lot of the southern area that is inside the safe zone, but a lot of these circles have been leaning towards the north, even whenever we've been having it. And that kind of leans into the, well, we've been seeing it so much, surely it'll happen again mindset that happens sometimes inside of PUBG. A lot of these teams know not to fall into that trap, but sometimes like you have that little voice that's echoing in your head and countermanding the shot call and the place that you want to play. And it is kind of a gamble at this stage, Paper.
Yeah, absolutely. You do have to kind of roll the dice early on which side of the river you're going to be on, because coming across one way or another can be difficult. Those bridges are narrow. There's a lot of good opportunities to camp them, even when you're not really trying to camp them. You're kind of just in natural positions where you find yourself with good vantage points on the rivers. If it does shift north for K7, there's a real opportunity for them. Again, at the bottom of the leaderboard, tournament life on the line. There's potential as they make their way up to Severity that they could really find some of those points that they desperately need to avoid the end of their lives for this event. And some other teams we're looking at: Zenith, FaZe, Buriram, SDK at the top of the leaderboard, all with more than 50 points, all still within shooting distance of that first spot, no doubt about it. Detonation Gaming White with another win could definitely do it for him as well. So a lot of teams still have a chance if maybe FaZe goes out early without a lot of points. And here's what I'm talking about: these bridges. It's going to be Godby on the other side of it this time, not really getting a lot of damage into JN. That's pretty nice there for JN. He's going to escape with no damage.
Yeah, that's I mean, if you're gonna commit to trying to hold this one, you gotta have some support with it or line up the shots. I mean, the vehicle took a decent chunk of damage, but Jan manages to get away with that one. I do want to draw your guys' attention to the middle of the pack as well. Look around 7th position. You can see the Team Liquid, TSG, Furia, Divine, Kia, TSM, Ints, all these teams are very closely stacked to each other's. Yep, go ahead, get that traction. Yeah, there you go. Make it up the other side of the hillside. So sends it across the road to decide, okay, let's not do that, and regroups with his teammates. So interesting play coming from them. I guess it's just
I've never
hesitation on choice. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if I've ever
Bray
seen anybody
crossing the
do
bridge
that.
to say screw it and come back over. But to go back to what I was talking about with how close the points are, remember, guys, every position is an extra game to secure a spot in the weekly finals. So we could be looking at a point where one kill buys these teams an extra game and an extra potential to make it into the weekly finals. One of these teams might qualify off of one kill in this round, buying an extra round to get that extra spot. And that is so just mind-blowing with the way that this tournament is set up.
Yeah, it's kind of a butterfly effect of how this is going to pan out for the weekly qualifiers, and yeah, everything matters right now, and it's a nice little Oregon Trail maneuver there by LG Divine, fording that river with their vehicle, and they are going to get back together on the Yasnaya. Not really able to get across to the other side of the water, probably wanting to hedge their bets across the Yaz Bridge, but not really able to accomplish that. 4 a.m. And it's going to be Iro looking to try to get Forever out at his Dacia, but the spray just not quite there with his M4. So that's going to send Forever off to the left of Iro, or the right of Iro here. Godby does take one shot from Iro, but there's enough hills and other things in the way that they should be able to escape.
Car's too strong, eating all the bullets, keeping everybody alive. Too hard to hit the shots on it. We're seeing a lot of people get away from positions that normally we'd see somebody go down into. Makes a question for really what are we looking at towards the late game with the setup and the positions, because really sneaking away with these rotations is going to buy positionings that are kind of surprising for a lot of these teams. Remember, Divine tried to cross this river, opted back into this position, didn't have a chance to really defend it up, and now they're being swarmed on by Detonation Gaming White.
Well, Detonation Gaming White is coming out of Yaz, and I think they recognize that this was going to be undermanned. A good headshot from Gokuri is going to find June through the window. This is really nicely done here by Detonation Gaming White, knowing that they have an on-man situation. They have the potential to be the first team out of this, and there's more good shooting. It's Gokuri again, getting the knock on to Levies. The reinforcement showing up for LG Divine, but potentially too late. Levies by the fence line. That grenade bounces into him, gets him down to below half into his knock status. This is, if Detonation Gaming White can win this fight cleanly, they give themselves a really good shot to leapfrog potentially up into one of those top 3 positions.
The problem comes into play. This is such a really risky place to push through. You can see Detonation Gaming White trying to get a little bit more information, flanking around the outside of it. No third party coming into play just quite yet. But you can see this is kind of the nature of the beast in playing this terrain piece, this compound. This res, so sneaky, but gonna manage to get away with it. Now, Gokuri has to be very careful, gets spotted out. Chin gets the shots into it, runs right into the smoke. It's gonna be a quick exchange. Gotta be super careful with this one. Divine starting to get their feet back underneath of them. But what the hell is even going on out over here? Buram and FaZe just mutually destroying each other.
I don't know what's going on with that. LG Divine is gifted some indecisiveness from Detonation Gaming White, and I don't know what the heck Gokuri is looking at up on that box. He has to be focused on LG Divine. I know Zenith is wrapping for a third party, but you got to deal with the here and now, and Detonation Gaming White gets eliminated. It starts out as a great move, but indecisiveness costs them, and a good move by Zenith as well to third party this fight to try to pick up some more points for themselves hurts. So, well, this is not a good situation for LG Divine either. Under, driving right by GEX. They're going to have a good opportunity to get some serious damage into him. Kale and Indigo trailing. Going to let that Dacia lead the way. 3 UAS is following. Getting some good airtime in it. And look at Leo's position. He had a really nice opportunity to maybe put some more hurt. And there it is. There's the knock finally onto Indigo. Good shooting by Mao Ye.
So now you can see that Turtle's troubles continue, leaning into the bathroom strategies, and that's going to be a quick read, and we're not going to talk about where he just got shot at. That had to hurt.
Yeah, that was, he left himself a bit exposed there, Matt.
Well, luckily, the tidy whiteys deny any exposure in the game, right? Zenith going to go ahead and claim this compound, get themselves a comfortable position to play from. if the Circle does opt into staying center, they're going to be in a prime position to really put in some work inside this game. The west of them is going to be Team Liquid. You can see K7 trying to get a little bit more information on the scout around what's happening. A lot of teams leaning into the northern positions right now. Really, it's just kind of spattering teams along the river sides. So if we do see this kind of center up, that means that Rajat could be a key component inside of this, as well as the hillsides just on the other side of the river to the north of it. So rotations galore coming into play, and not a lot of teams leaning into playing edge this time around. Instead, leaning into taking the firefights, leaning into trying to go for positioning, realizing how pivotal this last game is.
Absolutely. They're waiting as well for this phase 1 circle, and a lot of teams have opted to play this northern bet. You never know with this one, though. Kale, he's driving around shooting range. It's SDK with the long split along the northern edge of the shooting range itself. And taking a few shots now into Damwon Kia, already losing one in transition. Another would be rather disastrous. Having 3 up is not the end of the world, but having only 2 makes it far more difficult to maintain, control of whatever situation you're in. Oh, well, that doesn't really help. I mean, it's probably going to go north of the river. If it does go south, that's going to be quite interesting. But yeah, it's going to end up probably in that open area, Matt. We've seen a couple circles here recently end up around 4 a.m.'s territory.
River, yet again, we already told you everything you guys need to know about it. It means it's going to be risky as far as rotations go. Luke 12 trying to get some damage back into him. Not going to get much out of it. Really, it's going to be Kia and Shoot to Kill lined up against each other along this northwest. Buraram rolling right into attack all around's positioning. It's going to be Godmeow already down. Svit kind of rolling through position, but numbers advantage actually leaning into Buraram, who leaned into this compound. But reinforcements are rolling through. Jim's going to roll right along the side of it. Edie with a good heads-up reposition off of that one. Denies any shots on the vehicle as it makes its approach. Now, Jim's, what are you going to try to do from this one? Conaxy trying to load into him. Jim's on near on no life. It's just going to be a matter of time before somebody manages to get some tick damage into him to knock him out of that vehicle. Surely, is he going to be able to get away from this one? Burram taking shots. Liquid gets the shots. There he goes. Finally, somebody connects, and just one now left for AAA.
That was a little bit of a double take for me there. That was not 4 a.m. and DA fighting over J Compound. Instead, it's Buriram and AAA. AAA is getting the worst end of it. Clib's going to finish off Gems out in the open. And this leaves it all up to JQ now. Yeah, nope, it's okay. Nope, that's fine. There's enough room there, I guess. It's a pretty beat-up car already. It's already smoking, so it's not going to be great either way. But yeah, that's for AAA here. They would probably like maybe a couple insurance points to really make sure that neither GDX or K7 can catch them and put them in that position where they are last and don't play in the upcoming week. GEX is continuing their march forward, doing a good job navigating the circle, getting in underneath TSM, and finding a nice little spot to set up for now.
This could be the game that defines the history for a couple of these rosters right now. We saw the fact the struggles that Key was going under, finally managing to string together some points to move themselves into a decent position. Downside, though, is the position on the map that they're playing is not the safest. So whenever we look towards the north, that means that we're going to see them surrounded now by 4 a.m. Ints, Triumphant Song Gaming playing next to Nolene. That might get some vision into this position as well. Burtram in a fairly fortified position, but they are going to be playing to the south. So if we do see another central position or even a northern shift, that means that they are going to have to move. Tackle around, last member up, similar point, still playing around school, but I don't know, maybe you can go scrap together, get some more loot, get some more utility. I mean, sitting on plenty of smokes, but this stage of the game, it's just all about survival. Maybe seeing if you can get something out of it. AAA knows they're in trouble. There's only 8 points separating them and K7, the bottom of the leaderboard.
Yeah, it's for JanQ now, it's commando mode. You're just trying to survive, not give away your position, just trying to let everybody else fight, take advantage of the fighting, try to hide, and really just see if you can get any extra points that you can find through placements or kills. Kanaxi gets into a vehicle, and Atesy is waiting for it. Kanaxi quickly adjusting to that, getting out. Now Fuzz is popping the tires on that vehicle, and poor Kanaxi not going to be able to use that Dacia now, and smokes go out, but too little, too late to save the vehicle, at least. GDX, I said they're in a decent position. Well, now they're finding themselves in Zenith's sight lines, and they are getting shredded apart. They're in a bit of a funnel. So they're not really watching what Zenith is doing, and Zenith really wants to. They can put some serious hurt. TSM above as well.
Zenith already at 6 kills at this stage of the round. That is kind of ridiculous. These guys are on the hunt for anything that's moving around them. If there's motion, they are going to go after it. TSM's Miraku creeping along onto this. Could find a really sneaky play onto him. Got to be very careful as he crests these next couple of hills. Peeking along and cresting the top of this hill, it could reveal him. Trying to spot it out. You see this one playing it a little bit slowly, got the reinforcements with it, knows exactly where they should be positioning at. Just a couple underhand grenades. Go ahead and warm it up just a little bit. Gonna get not enough damage to really influence just quite yet. It's all gonna be down to the peaks, and you can see it's gonna be Gex waiting, but looking at the wrong angle. Down on both sides. Leo, the last one up, already knows position. Gonna make the press back over towards Miraku. Miraku spots it out, and there we go. Gex, you're in some trouble now. 2 points separating you and K7, and this could be all she wrote.
Leo's in a good position. He's just got to be ready for Miraku to come up over the top like that. You know there's two there. I assume he does. And just not really able to ever ADS quick enough to do anything about it. Ents is trying to push through. I was going to say that the spot that Damwon Kia has taken is territory that Ents and FaZe really seem to like, kind of coming up in that middle part of the crossroads here by the shacks and all this other stuff. So for Ents to start pushing their way, it kind of has to happen naturally because of the way Ents likes to rotate from north to south. And Damwon Kia just trying to hold on. Again, any points you can find here, very, very helpful. Damwon Kia already down in 12th place. That means they would only have 4 games to play to qualify for the finals to really, you know, make the conspiracy theory come true that they were hot dogging it until the last week to come through and win it all. But I absolutely do not think that was the case, of course, but there has been some rumors that maybe that was the idea. Definitely not. But per western side of the circle, Furia up ahead as they wrap way around, and Damwon Kia under pressure from Furia from afar.
Furia knows how to play these circles so well. We've seen them have a lot of success based off of these positionings, specifically whenever they can get the high ground advantages on these northern Erangel fights. They seem to just know how to work it. TSM seeming like they're going to make a little bit of a play into Zenith's positioning, a couple of opening shots to get some directed damage. Are we going to see a full send? Not a full commitment just quite yet. Good read on what's happening. A couple of members for TSM at least getting a foothold to work around, and that's a good connection grenade. Roth already down inside of this. Leaning in for the peaks. Quick exchange between the two. Now back and forth between it. Kickstart leads on the outside of it. Goes for the spray. Does connect into it. TSM, how much more are you going to commit into this?
Oh my God. Kickstart again has been huge for Zenith. He is winning battles left and right for them. Just, this guy is playing the tournament of his life right now. Iroh and Miraku, though, still alive, but it's Team Liquid who has to start to get involved in this. Circle is shifting way up to the north, and Kickstart out the window almost gets another knock, and he's going to get kind of forced back. He is super beat up himself. Miraku thinking about a grenade around the side to make sure that nobody can come through. Wants to go for the res. Kickstart might be getting a little too far forward here. Gets some damage. He doesn't take much in return, and that grenade is out. Team Liquid slamming into this fight.
This is just disaster for everybody that's being involved, as now Team Liquid has decided that this is going to be their compound. Zenith still trying to hold the line onto it. Spots out another one. Clip takes some damage onto it, but Kickstart almost feels like he's been solo defending this with the amount of downs that are going back over towards his teammates. They've just been exchanging chain reses. Grenades lining back in. Looks like Liquid could find an opportunity. Not getting anything off of it just quite yet, but look at the utility that's being expended into this. Following up now, frag grenade starting to roll through, not connecting with enough damage to get the knock. Kia down and eliminated in another section of the circle, but it's going to be Fury that lines up and gets the damage into them. How much of a push are we going to see coming out from Liquid right now? Burrom now starting to move in back behind this Connex. He might find a little bit of vision. We're starting to see team upon team rolling through this hillside. K7 knows they need some kill points, and we're trying to see if maybe they can find a weakened Fury, but they're a little bit too late.
Well, even 4 a.m. is outside of this compound. You can see they're shooting into Jeems now as well. This is just a mess. It's an absolute mess. Actually gonna knock a Ibiza. Team Liquid can't get inside the compound cleanly. Clib and Mexi still stuck out there, and that's gonna open up the door for a couple other teams to get these third parties. Clib trying to find some kind of entrance, and there's Molly's at the door. That's gonna catch him. He's burning. He's gonna get knocked by Roth. What an insane defense, but finally, Kickstart is taken down by Mexi. He gets taken down by Shinboy. A hell of a hold by Zenith.
That was just phenomenal. K7, here is your opportunity. Get 2 kill points. 2 kill points and maybe some positions. I mean, if you get 3, better the world right now. That just confirms it. Zenith now has a ton of loot to work with, but do note Burram's last member. We've seen Burram do Burram things, and we know the fact that they can take down 2. Kickstart down. He was a central point for the hold. Now in a 1v1, Zenith looking up to line up against Burram, and this is a dangerous peek coming out from Roth. A little bit of cover is going to be Connax's favor, but the blue zone now coming in. Got a little bit of a problem to work around, taking a little bit of tick damage between the two of them. They have to be very, very cautious. Repositioning around, it's still just Connaxy committing into this rock. Got to see this one, see if it plays out. Smoke's coming through. A lot of utility could be picked up by Zenith here. If this comes into a med battle, it's just a matter of waiting it out. They've got so much utility to work with. Connaxy looks forward, finally takes down the king of the hill, holding down this positioning. So, Burram, you got the kill, but what do you get next? 1 kill point now going over to K7. They just need 1 to 2 more, and they could potentially get it.
Absolutely possible now for K7. They've got a great opportunity coming, and all it's going to take is those placements if they can just hang on for a little bit longer. And I just got to mention this. Once again, it's Connaxy from Buriram that's finishing off Zenith here. We started this one at the end of the first round with Connaxy winning, and here he is again doing a good job for Buriram, but the luck runs out. 4 a.m. doing what they do best, doing drive-bys. They are some of the best in the business. They have really practiced that, really found a lot of kills throughout this tournament with those kinds of maneuvers. K7 going to have to cross their territory now as well. First one going by. The rest of K7 thinking about coming up around that hill with 4 a.m. down there. They're going to have to traverse a little bit different terrain, reroute their path a bit. Zenon, my word, they're even catching damage from that range.
Where are you going, K7? You need to get something together off of this one. Every single casualty you take is just going to make it that much harder. Luxlock now down. Should be an easy flush onto it. You can see weakened, limping into the safe zone. Not a lot of options to work with. Booyahoo now down as well. Now it is just down to 2 and living in a shack. That's going to seriously negate kill potentials, as it's very dangerous to look out from any of these doorways. See, Smoke's providing a little bit of cover for now, but at least they have a spot inside the safe zone. That's not to be said for TSG. 4 a.m. Furia right now. Shoot to Kill has a little bit of a position that they can play. A lot of these teams weakened as just trying to send it through. As you can tell, 21 alive. 7 teams. A lot of these teams have taken a lot of casualties just to try to get into the circle.
Yeah, it's been a rough one, and with a circle like this, that's to be expected. K7, that move might have saved their tournament life. Getting to that shack might just last them long enough to get an extra placement point or maybe pick up another kill to find themselves ahead of their brethren. GEX Tiksu inside of a shack himself, and Raspu and Necro going to try to see if they can finish him. Bouncing him on the outside, but he's on the inside right now. Getting a great spray across the top, knocking Raspu. Necro almost down as well. And here's Zenon trying to desperately pick up points. Oh, but he's going to get knocked in return. Alo with some great long-range shooting with the SLR.
I think they should be able to get the res, but K7, you're getting the opportunity. You just got to get something out of it. Tiksu, good connection shots onto it. I mean, that was just an approach on the hillside. Furia should have had an idea that that peak angle was that ridiculously strong and just couldn't manage to figure out a way to make it work. So, now, what are we going to see? K7, we're in the points values. There we go, guys. They did it. They managed to pass up the weakened Gex. So with this Gex now done, dusted, out of the tournament, they put up a valiant fight, but no more PGI.S for them. Now we look to the positioning for these other teams. What more can you get out of it? You know, FaZe trying to eye that #1 spot. Back behind them, Shoot to Kill having a couple of opportunities. A couple of kill points for TSG also could be huge. Ints picking up 1 kill can shift them up into a new position. So now it's all about how much more can you get? Can you get the positioning to give you a better opportunity to make it to next week's finals?
I think they might be about to be crashed on by Shoot to Kill here. Purdy Curdy's angling in this direction. Indeed, they shift, and it is a hard push. Ents could get some more positions if they can win this fight, pick up some kills on that leaderboard, put themselves in a better spot, play more games in the weekly qualifier. Molly out the window. Is that going to catch Penta? Penta under a lot of pressure. TSG as well, trying to get into K7. Sia going to throw some grenades on the outside. They need to get 1 on the inside. It's good to put some on the outside. There's the Molly on the inside. Grenades exploding around them. K7 falling apart. Savior has gotten out into the smoke. It is up to him trying to live up to his namesake, but TSG barrels down on top of him. It's going to take a Herculean effort to survive this.
K7, you get yourself one game in the survival series, but that puts us in our top 4. Now we're looking towards it. 1 member shoot to kill down, 1 up, 2 up for Ints, 2 up for FaZe, and Triumphant Song Gaming with 4 up right now. With positioning and the way we're seeing this lay out, we can see that Triumphant Song Gaming has control of the Southeast, and it's just a smattering of weakened teams. Shoot to kill in a little bit of a desperate position right along the edge. You can see Fuzzface lined up, looking in his direction. Also, Ints as well. Tries to go for the play onto it, but it's just going to be a quick pickup. Ints is going to go ahead and rack up those kill points, allowing them to climb a little bit further. Now, eyes are starting to be set back into Team Liquid's positioning. Another couple of kills buys them another spot. Same thing could be said for TSG. FaZe, if they manage to win this, if they can pick up a couple of more kills, they could even put themselves into first. A lot on the line for these last 3 teams.
Yeah, this is huge for FaZe. I mean, any extra games you can get on top of Zenith are going to be wonderful. Zenith getting it done with kills this round, but FaZe might be able to do it with position. TSG looking to really shoot themselves up that leaderboard if they can. They could even topple SDK here with a win with some extra kills. So they're looking to really buy 2 extra games with the win. They have the ridgeline on the eastern side of the circle fanned out very nicely. Ents' compound still in, so Ents isn't going to move. FaZe inside as well. So for them, this is just a setup and a wait, but for FaZe, they are in a very odd position. If the circle shifts towards them, not the end of the world, but there could be some crossfires that are set up by TSG if they wrap to the south potentially. With Ents, you know, maybe they have to leave their compound if it hard shifts that direction, but I think no matter what, Ents will still be at least a little bit in this one way or another, unless it really hard shifts to the south.
All right, what do you got? I was going to say, I thought I saw AT switch over to a shotgun.
making a painting?
Drawing on the walls, chilling. This is what you do when you wait for the circle to update, right? I mean,
Is he trying to make
everybody
a
knows
FaZe
that he's
app?
there, so it's not like he's got to be sneaky or anything else like that. Fuzzface, I'm looking at that dot, and he is right on a rock, so I don't know if his rock will provide him enough cover. He may have to move. This is where you really need to see the clutch potential. You need to see the star performance from your players. There is an opportunity here to be had for every single one of these teams, but can you find a way to make it work? 8C, so many teams lined up and got vision for him. You can see TSG, everybody on their teams just lined up and looking at him, and he knows it. He knows that this is going to be risky no matter what he does. He's got a couple of smokes to maybe throw them out, maybe hop in the car, get some speed to try to rotate from this one. Rotating on foot, I don't know if he's got enough utility to lean into trying to do. Maybe he can make it to Fuzzface. It's all about options and decisions right now, and so much pressure onto FaZe. What's the option going to be? You can see coming out, dancing around, trying to juke through this thing, if maybe he can distract. I mean, the car, he's going to die if he goes for it, so I can't help but feel it's got to be a run forward, and that's what he's going to end up doing. He just takes into the smoke, starting to throw them down, crawling forward through this one, hoping that maybe TSG is going to have to reposition, look to a different point. Fuzzface still just trying to hold up, provide covering fire for his teammates. You can see that Triumphant Song Gaming starting to get a little bit of vision, but it's all about the smoke walk. Slowly creeping this one forward. Nobody on Triumphant Song Gaming finding the lucky connection shots onto him. Slowly creeping this one forward. Maybe ATC can reunite with his teammate Fuzzface.
This is so hard for 8Z. He's making the best of a bad situation. TSG had to wrap towards Ents because they're going to have to make a move. They're outside of the circle, so they have to push to Ents' compound. Let's see what direction they want to come from. There's just not enough cover, regardless, on the top of it to really hang out up there. So they're going to push around to the other side. I really like this push. There's only 2 windows on that side of the building. Not a lot that Ents can really do about it except throw some grenades and hope for the best. You can see they have settled out here. So that actually, 8C has bought himself enough time for him and Fuzzface potentially to start pushing forward to this compound themselves, Matt. This is a fantastic move by FaZe.
Having to dodge the grenades as they approach. They have an opportunity to run forward, but oh, the grenade's gonna connect. Diggory takes down ATC, so now it is all just down onto Fuzzface's shoulders. Triumphant Song Gaming has the numbers advantage. Ints has been holding down position, trying to defend this for so long. Squeaky gets vision, back onto one of members. Sia out on the outside of the safe zone. Diggory goes down. Now starting to see a couple more opportunities. This is Triumphant Song's game. They have the opportunity, they have the potential. Squeaky just trying to defend this one up, trying to figure out where the push is gonna be coming from. Spots it out, gets a little bit of damage, but this is just turning up all types of favors for Triumphant Song Gaming. Fuzzface manages to connect, tries to go for the shot, not gonna get it. It's gonna be Triumphant Song Gaming taking our last bottom 16 round.
Oh, Fuzzface was one placement away from getting that. It was so close. It was a Herculean effort by FaZe at the end. He did everything he could to survive, but it wasn't enough. TSG just too strong at the end of that. A great push, a great maneuver down the hill. A weakened ENCE wasn't strong enough to hold them at bay. And that's going to be a big win for TSG, shooting them up the leaderboards, giving them a lot more games to play during the upcoming weekly qualifier.
I love the awareness coming up from TSG there. They realize, okay, we're wasting way too much time on this FaZe thing. They're already in a risky position. ENCE can potentially gatekeep them, so let's go for the bigger threat. Hop in the vehicles. You can see they send it down very quickly. Still leave one member back, though, to really kind of provide overwatch, provide cover for their teammates. You know, FaZe got some sad faces on that one. I feel like they strung that together to make something out of a terrible situation. And sure, they don't manage to clutch up, but being able to walk away with the second place out of that, whenever they were near on dead a while ago, I would be proud of that situation.
Oh, God, yes, absolutely. That was, I mean, frankly, FaZe made the best out of a lot of unfortunate situations, and I don't normally like to use that word, but really they had some tough ones to deal with. They made some great decisions top to bottom today, gave themselves a fighting chance in almost every game, Matt. They really were in it to win it, and they played great. Zenith was just a little bit better. They were just a little more aggressive, picked up a lot of kills. They were able to find that early fight against LG Divine and Detonation Gaming White and rake in just enough kills off of that to get the win.
That was such a pivotal set of fights. But guys, that is it for us. We're going to go ahead and throw it over to the analyst desk to give you a walkthrough on what all is going to be happening next week, the setup for the weekly finals. There's so much to talk about. Poro, take it away.
TSG wrapping up things with a very big win, which is going to net them a total of 5 additional games to play during these weekly survival series. That's going to be huge for them. As we know, you need to get that win. Clover wins something that has been hard to come by for some of our teams here.
Really, I mean, that's the whole reason they're here, right? They didn't get a chicken dinner during the week 5 survival, and as we take a look real quick at the match results, beautiful 22 points for Triumph at Song. You know, they've been kind of quietly middling throughout this event. They haven't really been doing anything overly flashy, overly crazy, but that's kind of a bit of their playstyle. Volibear and Pangam really looking and capitalizing on opportunities to kill and frag out where it matters. And that was a little bit of a weaker game for Shan Jian. I mean, he's really been the shining star of this roster for this weekend here in the bottom 16 matches.
They did look fantastic playing from that open field position, keeping 4 up into the late game, and then dominant push onto that junkyard compound. But FaZe, once again, managing to find their way to the top 2, albeit with 1 kill. Cameron, they're still looking pretty darn good.
Looking really strong. And when we see the overall leaderboard, we're going to see just where they're at. I believe it's 2nd place at the end of all of this. But to jump onto the point that I believe Clover was starting to make there, is that Zenith and FaZe, who are in the top 2 positions right now, didn't get a single win this entire weekend. So even though they are the 2, like 1st and 2nd place, they were the best performing teams this whole weekend in super format, they didn't get the win during the weekly survival. They didn't get a win this weekend. So we've seen, it doesn't matter how well you perform. We've seen so many times teams just go all out, get the points, get the points, get the points, get the kills, good placement. It doesn't matter in the weekly survival format. So while it might be good to see them, Zenith and FaZe, performing well here this weekend, it's still, something in the back of my head is still really nervous for their chances of making it to week 6 weekly final, and that's the big place that you want to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know obviously different metas for the weekend versus the weekly games, so obviously different mindsets coming through. But I notice a lot of these teams seeming to be, you know, when we ask them, do they look at the weekly survival series differently or approach it differently than they do these weekend games where we are on that super point settings? Most of them kind of say no. We kind of approach this in much the same way. So even though Zenith and FaZe Clan got to be sitting happy, they're going to have plenty of opportunities to try to go for that win in that weekly survival series. The fact that they did not find themselves with a chicken dinner this weekend may be moderately concerning, but let's not worry about that now. Let's celebrate the fact that they finished in 1st and 2nd place. Furthermore, Damwon Kia breaking their long streak without a chicken dinner, finally get themselves one. 13th place they finished there, Clover.
I mean, they had us sweating. We've seen it in chat. We've seen it on the Twitterverse, on Reddit, on every social media board. What's going on with Damwon Kia to finally break that win streak? There was even a quick camera pan to them. We saw that relief on their face, and since then they've been finding some scoring opportunities, a couple kills here and there, and so that's the confidence we really want to see coming out of this going into next week. Remembering what a chicken dinner feels like, they know what they need to strive for, and I'm going to take that same momentum real quick and kind of give a double shout out to Detonation Gaming White and to Buriram United, because both of them got double chicken dinners this weekend, and that is going to be fantastic momentum going into next week.
Both teams looking pretty hot. The hot hands, Cameron, as they head in out of this weekend and into those weekly finals. We'll also want to give a quick shout out to Ents. They managed to pick up four more games for themselves as well off of that final game performance. So really good to see there. Guys, that is going to do it for the weekly reseeding tournament here today, but that is not all for today. In an hour or so, we're going to be looking at getting into the final day of weekly finals, where there is so much money on the line right now. Multi-Circle Gaming sitting in first place. Can they hold on to it? Oh, it's going to be close. Everything is really tight. If we've gotten to know anything from these past few weeks, we're not going to know until the very, very end. So everyone, make sure you set your clocks. Make sure you come back here to twitch.tv/PUBG and watch those final games, because it is going to be absolutely insane, intense stuff, and I know you guys want to be there to see it. But for now, that is going to do it for us. I have been Porosaurus. Joining me on the desk has been Clover and Cameron. On the cast has been Mr. Paperthin and Matchroom. Thank you so much for joining us, and guys, have a great night. We'll see you back here very soon.